Hi, I'm Greg. I'm the lead singer for Lipstick.
I'm Steve. I'm the bassist from Lipstick.
And welcome to the Lipstick panel. Today on the Lipstick panel, we are talking about the Kiss album Crazy Nights, considered by some to be one of the best albums in the catalog and an underrated classic, and considered by some to be the worst album in the Kiss catalog and a gigantic piece of shit. We're going to see where the panel falls on this issue.
Is that, is the former some you, Greg?
And
almost no one else?
No, I've actually heard a great deal of people talk about how this is an underrated Kiss album, how it's a classic, how it has some of the band's best material. Seriously, this is the one of the most divisive Kiss albums. It's not like The Elder, where people are just like, this is a pile of shit, and then there's like the couple of crazies that like it, like myself. This is like a line in the sand where it's like, this is awesome, or this is a pile of dog shit. And so it's going to be interesting to discuss with our excellent panelists. We've got Julian Gill returning to the program. I think this is his second time on the show. We haven't had Julian very much on the show, but we're glad to finally bring him in on some episodes. Welcome, Julian.
Well, thank you. I've taken a ton of LSD to deal with this album.
You know what?
Breakfast of Champions.
I don't know what that says about the album. And then we've got Mike Walsh, who I originally knew as Crazy Crazy Mike from the Kiss message board days, joining us back on the show. Mike, welcome back.
Is that why you gave us all silly nicknames? Sorry, I'm interrupting.
Hello, thank you.
Yes, I gave us all silly nicknames. Steve, do you care to comment on the silly nicknames?
In his notes, he's called us, where are my stupid things?
Yeah, when I sent Steve the rankings, I've started putting the names of who ranked what on our overall rankings so Steve can have quick access to them. And so I'm like, well, I gave Crazy Crazy Mike his nickname, but we need nicknames for everyone else on the panel.
The email just disappeared. That's weird.
Well, I've got it pulled up. So we've got Turn On the Greg.
Which we will. At some point, we will all turn on the Greg.
We've got I'll Fight Julian to Hold You.
Oh, God help us.
And last but not least, we've got Bang Bang Steve.
You know it.
Nice.
So whenever I'm looking at the rankings, I'm always going to see those nicknames right at the top. So Crazy Crazy Mike, thank you for starting the trend.
I'm glad I could. The fact that I nicknamed myself after a song on the album probably is a clue to how I feel about the album.
So as is our usual format of the show, we go around the panel talking about our history with the band and the album. Crazy Crazy Mike, you're the title panelist of this episode. How about you go first?
What an honor. So I won't completely repeat my introduction to Kiss like I did last week, but I was originally more familiar with their 70s material, and then found out that they had a whole 80s period where they didn't have the makeup or anything, and I started listening to some of those albums. This was back in the days when there was a local music store by me where you could actually bring CDs up to a booth and they would let you listen to them. And I did that with Crazy Nights. And this may come as a surprise. I hated it at first, or I thought I hated it at first. I want to say that was my very unrefined middle schooler palate. I think a big thing was at that point in my life, I had not really heard a lot of 80s rock, the whole hair metal, pop metal scene. And I think I was very shocked by these sounds that I was hearing for the first time, especially compared to what 70s Kiss sounds like. So I was kind of like, no, this album isn't for me. I thought the song Crazy Crazy Nights was just too happy and cheesy. And I was a stupid middle schooler. I was like, Paul Stanley is ripping himself off on Bang Bang You just because he referenced Love Gun. I thought that was plagiarism, even though the song sounds nothing like it. That was just me being stupid. How dare he use that term again? And so I kind of dismissed the album for a while. Didn't give it much thought, didn't buy it or anything. Down the road, I was listening to a Bruce Kulick interview, and somehow the Crazy Nights album came up, and he was like, yeah, we had a good time recording that one. It was a lot of fun. I remember, on one song, it's pretty awesome. It's just starts with a guitar solo, and it's just me and Eric jamming for a while. And I just kind of remember being like, huh? Song starts with a guitar solo. That sounds really cool. And of course, that song is No, No, No. But just that concept sounded cool to me. So I revisited the Crazy Nights album because of that, and something clicked that time, and I was hooked. I loved the songs, I loved the sound and the production, even though that's controversial. All of a sudden, I found an album that became very special to me.
Hearing that you initially hated Crazy Nights is shocking. I can't even wrap my mind around that.
It's not something I like to admit very often.
It'd be like me saying, the first time I heard Bad for Good, I thought, man, what a shit album.
Yeah,
I prefer the Meatloaf version.
So my mind is being blown by this revelation. I can't even process it right now. I'll fight Julian to hold you. How about you? Tell us your history with this album.
Yeah, this was actually the first Kiss album that I bought new after becoming a fan, and it nearly made me not a Kiss fan. My reaction to it was, we've already had Bang Bang You mention that even at that early stage of my Kiss infancy, like, I don't know how to turn that into a Kiss word, but it just, I was flabbergasted. It was just so shit. But there were some really good songs on it. It was only decades later that I heard, who is it, Rod Gonzalez, do a disco cover of I'll Fight Hell to Hold You, that I went back and actually started listening to the album more and more and digging into the songs and finding out that there were actually some very good songs there buried under crap execution. So it was one of those albums that I avoided like the plague. I didn't like the sound of it. But, once I heard that and started hearing demos, my opinion of it changed somewhat. But it was nearly the one that broke the camel's back at the time where I just got on the camel. So one of those, not a good album for me to become a fan with, but, there are some other things in there as well. I went out to England in 1988, and this album was everywhere there. So that kind of colored my opinion a little bit too. So.
Now, Julian, I don't want to sound disrespectful, but you said it almost broke the camel's back, and you had just gotten on the camel. So wouldn't that mean you almost broke the camel's back?
No, it was definitely the straw that did it.
It was definitely the straw. It was a heavy damn straw.
So Stephen Smith, what is your history with Kiss and Crazy Nights and Paul Stanley's song in particular?
Yeah, man. So I've been listening to Kiss for about a year now, since we started this podcast last January. And this album, Greg handed me a copy last week saying, we got to rush through a bunch of Kiss CDs in very short order. I forget why. And then I forgot to listen to it until I was partying last night. And then this morning was like, oh, right, I'm supposed to listen to this Kiss album. So I didn't even notice Paul's thong until, I put it in the car on the ride to church this morning. And, I'm just sitting there as I get out and that is a man, a hairy, shirtless man with his thong sticking out, just sitting on my passenger seat as I go into church. Well. Anyway, and then I listened to the rest of the album shortly before we started recording this podcast and was a little bit thrown by, I feel like overall this is probably the strongest Kiss album that we've done.
Including the Gene Simmons 78 solo album?
Did we just become best friends?
Maybe I might have to go back and re-listen to the Gene 78 solo album again just to verify, but they're probably pretty close. I feel like this one's higher points might be a little bit higher, but its lowers are also much lower. Although, I wasn't super impressed by When You Wish Upon a Star. So who knows? I might have to listen to more Kiss than I intended to. Dang it.
So I will say the lows of the Gene Simmons 78 solo album are lower than the lows of this album, in my personal tastes. So my history with Kiss and Crazy Nights... First became familiar with the band when I saw them in 2004, the Rock the Nation tour. That was my first concert. Fell in love with the band, started going through the catalog. Was familiar with the idea of the album Crazy Nights, but, it was one of the ones I got to later in just buying up the CDs. And I remember the first time I heard the song Crazy Crazy Nights was on the Gene Simmons Rock School reality TV show, where there was that little kid who was into punk music, and Gene burned him a mix CD, and Crazy Crazy Nights was one of the songs on there. And I'm like, man, this is like a fun, awesome, believe in yourself anthem. I need to get a copy of Crazy Nights on CD. And it took me a while to find a copy on CD, so I had to deal with just finding the title track on LimeWire, but then as soon as I was able to find the CD, I bought it and purchased it legally, and have loved it for many, many years. This is an interesting album in the catalog in that it's, it has that slick Ron Nevison production. He made a huge comeback for Ozzy with his production, a huge comeback for Heart with his production, and so I was like, yeah, I can probably make it work with Kiss and give them a huge, giant, mega-selling album. And it didn't succeed as commercially as those other albums did, but I think this is a fine album with some great songs, but I think there were some great songs that were left off of it. And before we talk about our ranking, I want to go into two of the really strong demos that were cut around the time of the album that were not put on the album. So I want to talk a little bit about Time Traveler and Sword and Stone before we get into the ranking.
AKA Kiss discovers Rush, the songs.
I mean, first of all, Rush is a great band.
Yeah.
So Kiss discovers Rush, the songs are great. Steve, so you're usually pretty much a stickler for a production. That's a really big deal for you. So
Yep.
I know those were just demos, kind of lower quality, but what did you feel about the songwriting on those in comparison to what you heard on the rest of the album?
I wasn't actually all that impressed with Sword and Stone, but I did like. I can see why they left Time Traveler off because it's super nerdy Rush shenanigans. I've got a nerd drop.
Listen to those lyrics.
Oh, it's even that one.
It's all about love and longing. Yes, and hobbits too.
Right. So that song was super nerdy, but I liked it, and I thought it was stronger than probably about half of the songs that actually made the cut for the album. So I would have liked Time Traveler to be on the album. Because
that was just a demo with a drum machine. If they had done like a full proper recording of it, I think that song would have been even better. Because that's the rough draft. If the rough draft is that good, I think it would have been a phenomenal cut on the album, a potential single.
Yeah. The important part is they would have to leave those synths on. Like, those synths are what really make it stick out, I think. And they didn't have a lot of that sort of stuff on this album, so...
They had lots of synths on this album, like My Way, and like synths. There are a lot of fans who complain that there's too much synth on this album.
I feel like the synths on this album still sound like Kiss stuff, though, right? It's just supplementing their normal style rather than being the sort of focus, the proggy focus like it was in that song.
So you're saying that, yes, Kiss is better as a prog band, as evidenced by The Elder, but might have been too much for Kiss fans at the time.
Yeah. Might have been too much for Kiss fans and the non-Kiss fans that they would have been trying to pull in. Like, I think at this point, if you didn't like Kiss, you didn't like Kiss, and you weren't going to start listening to them 14 albums in. And if you did like Kiss, you didn't want them to change too much.
Ironically, I've heard from a number of people this was their gateway entry point into Kiss, was the Crazy Nights album.
Oh, yeah?
As we're saying that there's like Chris Czynszak and a bunch of other guys, and I said, yeah, I first discovered the band through Crazy Nights. So maybe Time Traveler, like a bunch of prog kids would have found, like, I found this sick prog band called Kiss. They're like the next Rush.
We live in an alternate world where you and Chase are best friends over your Kiss shared Kiss fandom.
Right. So, Mike, what are your thoughts on Time Traveler and Sword and Stone? Should they have made the cut?
Okay, I like both songs. I can also understand why they didn't make the cut. I really like both songs. My introduction to Sword and Stone was actually the Bonfire version on the Shocker soundtrack.
It's a great version. That is a great version.
It is a great version, yeah. So I since that was the first version I ever heard, even including the demo, that's kind of just that's my template for the song. And it just totally works for me. So I'm like, oh yeah, that's a Bonfire song. That can't be a Kiss song. Even though at the time when I was hearing it, I realized there was the Kiss connection with Paul and Bruce and everything. Writing that song. I like it, and again, but both songs, Sword and Stone and Time Traveler, I don't want to say they're not dark songs, but I do feel like they have a little bit darker of a mood than a lot of what's on the album, especially the Paul songs for the most part. A couple of Gene ones have a little bit of that dark tinge, which I think totally works, but I can see why they were left off, if that makes sense, even though I do enjoy both of them.
So
I probably, of the two, maybe give a little nod to Sword and Stone over Time Traveler, and but I don't know.
all right, so Steve prefers Time Travel, you prefer Sword and Stone. Julian, where do you come in this debate?
I hate Time Traveler.
Ouch, my soul.
I despise it. It's just sugary fluff that really should be turned into cotton candy, eaten, and passed through the bowels into hell. It's just so unkiss-like. It was one of those songs when it started circulating as a demo with some of other stuff. I was like, forget it. It would have clashed tremendously on the album in terms of its style, its tempo, its everything, even if it hadn't been improved, like by adding some guitars. Sword and Stone. I agree with many Kiss fans who feel that this was the lost hit single of the 1980s. Probably wouldn't have been, but it was the anthem that we all kind of crave. But it was left off the album for a reason. It was promised to Loverboy, who were going to record it, and they never did. And, this was a time when Paul was shopping his demos around. So they had picked it up and said that they were going to do it on their next album. They didn't. Paul Dean did. And it turned up on his hardcore album and then Bonfire on the Shocker album. So it did get out, but it's one of those songs I've adored since the moment I heard the demo version of it, and then hearing the better studio recording. It's just one of those great songs that I really, really like. It was the anthem that they had finally gotten back into, and I'll take it over some other anthems that they've written in the same time. There's also two other songs actually that were supposed to be on this album. One was actually recorded for it, and it was called "Are You Always This Hot?" and it's on Gene Simmons' vault. And another unfinished one called "Dial L for Love," which was co-written by Eric Carr.
So I haven't heard the other two. So actually, I think I might have heard "Dial L for Love." That sounds really familiar, but it's possible that I just remember the title and didn't hear the demo. But as far as the demos that I'm sure I've heard, I'm going to also be a prog nerd and side with Time Traveler. So split decision on the Lipstick panel. But I think both songs are great. I think Sword and Stone succeeds because it would be the hardest rocking song on Crazy Nights, and just the riffs are badass. The vocal melodies on both these songs are great. I actually think Time Traveler is less nerdy than Sword and Stone, because Sword and Stone is like, girl, my penis is a sword and you're the stone that I penetrate with my sword penis.
Yeah.
Like that's a pretty nerdy metaphor. Versus Time Traveler, it's like, when I look at you, I reflect upon our past relationship. Like, oh, that's actually kind of a deep metaphor. Versus Sword and Stone is goofier, but it also rocks more. Time Traveler kind of reminds me of like a Michael Bolton song from his first couple solo albums where his name was Michael Bolton, and so now thinking of that, I kind of want to hear Michael Bolton sing this because that would be great. I do recognize it's much more 80s in terms of style. Like, it's very much 80s rock and less of a Kiss song. But I think both tunes are great. And I think both tunes, if they were on the album, they would rank towards the top for me. I would probably put them in, like, the number 3 and 4 spot. I think they're great tunes, and I don't understand... I do understand why they were left off, but compared to some of the other songs that were left on the album, which are still good songs, but it's like, alright, so you turn down Time Traveler for When Your Walls Come Down? Alright, I guess I can see why you would make that terrible decision. That's cool. But yeah, I think both songs are great. I love them a lot. I wish I had a better quality version of Sword and Stone with Paul singing, because I think he gives such a phenomenal vocal. But, luckily the Bonfire version of that song exists, and it's just so stinking heavy and kick-ass and awesome. So I'm glad that I'm able to listen to both songs, but I would have preferred them on the album, personally.
Who was Paul dating at the time? So, that needed Time Traveler, and maybe did he write it for Lisa Hartman or Sam Fox? Ew.
That's a good question. Like, Sam Fox, I remember having sex with you in that bubble bath. It was sweet. I'm a time traveler. So, like, yeah, I mean, they could be the lost ode to Samantha Fox, which I'm cool with.
When Julian was talking about Time Traveler, he was just saying he hates it, and it's just too sugary sweet and everything. So he's probably going to really kill me now. There's actually a Paul demo from around that time period. Well, there's a few, Don't Let Go, Best Man For You, When Two Hearts Collide. I have the weirdest, biggest soft spot love in my heart for Don't Let Go. That is just a big old 80s cheesy ballad. And I love that one. That's actually probably my favorite of the demos out of all of them. I don't know why. That one just hooked me many years ago when I first found it online.
I agree with you. I like that one.
So really,
Awesome.
we all agree this should have been a double album.
Meh.
Exactly.
Should have had a part 2. Crazier Nights.
I mean, it was their long, their biggest gap between albums at that point. So yeah, they should have compensated with a double album.
And eventually come out with Craziest Nights.
Exactly, the deluxe 29 CD 3 DVD version.
Meh.
Crazy Nights 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Had that film come out yet?
I think at that point, yeah. Yeah, because Breakin' was early 80s. Yeah, no, that definitely came out by that point. Because Breakin' 2 was like a year later. I'm like 100% positive. By 100%, I mean not
1984.
Yeah.
You wouldn't bet $200 on it.
I wouldn't bet I would. I would bet that. I would have bet that came out before Crazy Nights. I would have done that.
Yeah, 1984 versus 1987 for Crazy Nights.
But yeah, enough talk about classic breakdance cinema. Let's get into this ranking. So, coming in as the least best song on Crazy Nights, according to the panel, we have "Thief in the Night."
What?
Dude, you ranked it pretty low yourself, so but you put it third from the bottom. How could it end up at the bottom?
Come on, we're talking about the bottom here, and okay.
All right, so here's the thing. I don't think there's necessarily a bad song on this album. So, I think "Thief in the Night" is a very competent, catchy song, good melody, good riffs, kind of interesting lyrics. I love the build into the chorus. The main issue with this song is that it is right after "Turn On the Night." And it just makes this song look so much worse in comparison, where it's just a sequencing thing. The titles are very similar, and it makes this song feel like a Murder in High Heels or a Boomerang, where it's like, oh, it's a Gene song closing out the album, and it's not as good as what I heard right before it. But this is actually a really good song that just has the unfortunate fate of following like an amazing song. But this is a great tune. I love this one.
See, if it had been about anything except Gene's dick, I would have ranked it way higher. Like, I ranked it third from the bottom, making me one of the people who ranked it the highest, in fact. But just like, it's got these cool lyrics about spies or assassins or something, except it's just, it's
a metaphor for his dick.
Yeah, but it's not.
His dick is a spy wearing like a little trench coat and sunglasses.
I mean, that would be a much better lyric. But no, yeah, just like, it's really bland for it. I keep on bumping my mic stand, sorry. These lyrics would be so much cooler if they were actually just tell a story about like a cool spy or assassin, not just keeping on bragging about your sex addiction, Gene. Go see a therapist or something.
Yeah, but then he would try to bang the therapist, Steve.
Go see a male therapist.
I mean, maybe Gene... I wonder, like, as horny as Gene is, if he's ever, like, gotten with a dude. Like, you know what? I just need to come right now.
I mean, probably.
Look, it was the 70s, wild times. I'm sure at some point.
Let's see what the roulette of the gross sex category drops brings up.
It's about Paul Stanley's dick.
I think that's the only one in there, actually.
So the song is about
Paul Stanley's dick.
The song's about Paul Stanley's dick wearing a trench coat and sunglasses.
Now I'm just picturing a sad, plaintive Gene be like, I just want to see Paul's dick in a tiny trench coat and sunglasses.
Be a
See, I think
large
that-
trench coat
I
and
think
sunglasses.
I like the song, but all of a sudden, a song where Gene is contemplating Paul Stanley's dick as a spy. I don't care what you say, Steven. That just became a really lyrically interesting song.
That does sound way more interesting.
Also, we got off the rails way faster than I thought we would this episode, so go team.
You're the one who brought up the tiny trench coat and sunglasses.
You're welcome, team.
He's got a tiny little cyanide pill in one of the pockets just in case he gets caught.
Yeah, this is. I think this is sincerely a cool tune. Joking aside,
It was done better by Wendy O. Williams. It had a tougher edge, and again, because of the production of the album, I like her version of the song better. It's not a horrible Gene song. It's just a better one left with Wendy than him recycling it a couple of years later on a Kiss album with polish. It's just not the sort of song or subject matter or style that needs to be polished.
So it's Wendy O. Williams singing about her vagina in a tiny trench coat and sunglasses? Because that still sounds pretty great, let's be honest.
I mean, and also that fits right in with her shtick.
Might have resembled a crumpled, trench coat.
So what I'll say is I actually think the pop sheen on this album works really well, and this is, in my opinion, one of the better produced Kiss albums in general. I think this album has a really great drum sound. The guitars are maybe not as heavy as classic Kiss, but I think I think it's very sonically pleasing. Like, it's a very full, rich sounding album. I think it's better production wise than Asylum by leaps and bounds. Personally, I think the harmonies are much more balanced overall, and I think what works about this song for me, this version compared to the Wendy O. Williams version, is I'm not super big on Wendy O. Williams as a vocalist. I think her rasp loses a lot of melody sometimes, and so Gene is singing very clean on most of this album, and I think it works. I think Gene has a good, clean voice, and I think this album, Gene turned in a great album, and I don't think this is the embarrassing, Gene doesn't write good songs in the 80s stereotype. I think honestly, the lowest lows of Gene on this album are not as low as the lowest lows of Paul. I think every Gene song is good by Gene Simmons standards. For, whatever you take that as a backhanded compliment or a sincere compliment, I think this is a good song done well, and I like the production on it. I think the guitars sound really, really good on this track, personally.
I think this was the one where I first really noticed the first cracks in the production. Like, I didn't really notice.
Well, it was at the end of the album, so hey, that you got through most of it.
Right. Like, I was not having problems with the production of this album, which, for Kiss is good. I think they're in a good place production-wise on this album. There were a couple spots on this song in particular where I thought, that guitar tone sounds like a buzzsaw. That's probably not the right choice for them.
I thought that buzzsaw guitar tone was actually really cool. I thought it was just like amping up the tension and was an awesome way to close out the album.
I mean, I like ridiculous buzzsaw sounding guitars, but I'm not an arena rock band. I mean, Lipstick is, but I don't pick guitar tones for Lipstick.
Well, you help with that. And then I tell you you're wrong, and then we move on.
I dial the knobs until Greg says, okay, there you go, Steve. That doesn't sound like garbage.
So, Julian, other than... why are you so shocked that this came in at the bottom? Because you did rank it pretty low overall.
I just thought my other two were way worse than that. So it's all about me. It's ego. That's what.
And, Mike, I don't know if we really got your thoughts on this song in general. So what are your thoughts on Thief in the Night, other than, wanting the Paul Stanley Dick Spy song to exist?
Yeah, I mean, I really like the song. I did rank it pretty low, 10 out of 11. Although, again, I'm being completely upfront that this is basically, out of thousands of albums, the one that I call my favorite. Even one of my least favorite songs on my favorite album, out of many years of being a huge music nerd, I think is pretty good. Like you, Greg, I do prefer this over the Wendy O. Williams version. The vocal is a big thing. I just think, Gene sings it a lot better. Yeah, I like the the guitars on it. Like you said, there's like a menacing quality to the song. I like that. It's and one of your critiques is for me actually kind of another selling point. I agree, it is not nearly as strong as Turn on the Night, but for this album and really in general as a Kiss fan, I like that contrast between Gene and Paul. So
You
big
like
old
seeing how
glossy
much better
song.
Paul Stanley is than Gene Simmons.
I like the contrast between the shitty songs and the good ones.
Okay, you guys can take it that way. I just meant stylistically. Yeah, I mean, you have this big old catchy, poppy 80s hair rock, hair metal song with Turn on the Night. And then I think you just kind of close off the album, a little bit slower, a little more menacing, nice, good riff and everything. I really dig the chorus. So that, yeah, for me, that just works. I guess those are my thoughts on the song. You kind of mentioned the night thing, Turn on the Night, Thief in the Night. For me, again, going back to my middle school days of discovering these albums, I would like compartmentalize albums. So I would call Animalize Kiss's Fire album because I've had enough Into the Fire, Heaven's on Fire, and then Under the Gun they just kept yelling fire.
And
so
Burn,
then
Bitch, Burn.
Exactly, Burn, Bitch, Burn. Thank you. I knew there was another one. Crazy Nights was like, their nighttime album. You had Crazy Nights. You had Turn on the Night. You had Thief in the Night. And I was like, ooh, Kiss does theme albums. They have a fire album. They have a nighttime album. And part of me was being tongue-in-cheek about that. And part of me was like 13 years old and like actually thought that was a real thing.
Electric Six did that. They had an album called Fire. The theme of the album was just the vocalist wanted to see how many times he could use the word fire throughout the album.
Okay. Yeah.
And like it's mostly just dumb like early or 2000s era disco revival pop music, but yeah, he used the word fire a lot. Also Taco Bell.
Well, I've kind of run out of things to say about Thief in the Night. You guys ready to move on?
Oh,
Sure.
'tis a mighty bottle of beer.
That's a little harsh. I think this is a fine song. All right, so Next Up is a song that I ranked third from the top.
Yeah, Greg messed this one up.
Next up on the list is Bang Bang You. So let me preface this by saying I'm a terrible person. This is so bad it's good. This is so bad it's amazing. This is so bad it's tremendous. Like, this is an F of a song that gets catapulted to S rank by just being so goofy, so silly. My love is like a cannonball. I'm taking aim and you're gonna fall. Awful lyric. Hilarious lyric. But the fact that there's this gigantic, beautifully produced, giant harmony chorus singing I'm gonna bang bang you, like, you listen to that with anyone in your car, it's gonna get awkward immediately, and I love it.
Especially if you sing along and make really prolonged eye contact with them.
Right? But the fact that you've got like that gigantic massive chorus, you've got the pretty like synths like adding sheen to it and just making it sound even bigger. This is a Gene level song, but sung by Paul Stanley with so much conviction. I can't help but adore this track. I think it's tremendous. I know a lot of Kiss fans are like, it's silly and it's dumb. Yes. Yes, it is. And that is exactly why I love it. This is so bad it's good. And yeah, if I'm ranking every song in the Kiss catalog, this is probably upper half. In terms of how much enjoyment I get from it. I enjoy this so much, and I smile every time I listen to Bang Bang You.
Do you think this was like Paul writing a Gene song just to remind Gene of his place? Like, look, man, this is my band. I'm good looking. I'm going to have my thong out on the cover. I'm going to write a song that's the same sort of song that you write, but I'm better at it, and you're kind of fat and ugly. This is the Paul Stanley project, baby.
It actually is the Kiss album with the highest ratio of Paul to Gene songs, 7-4. So it very much was a Paul in the lead type of album.
Yep, and
Even though I think
zero
it's
Eric
song.
cuts. Eric's
Yeah,
like,
I
hey
mean,
guys, I
Ron-
write and sing too.
Ron Nevison actually said, yeah, let's not do Dial-L. Let's give Sword and Stone to Loverboy. Let's not do Are You Always the Song. I really like Bang Bang You. I mean, if Paul was trying to write a Gene song here, he got it completely wrong. Because if it was Gene, it would have been Bang Bang Me. You're going to bang bang me, baby, not bang bang you. And there wouldn't have been any shoot you down with my love gun because Gene just would not ever go there, really. You know, I might talk about a schmeckle, but he would never go to his love
Smack
gun.
you around with my schmeckle.
And then it's something of a public service exercise because it's got a lot of counting in it. You know, at the chorus, 1, 2, 3, 4. We make it all the way up to 8. I mean,
Are you ready to count?
So really, this is the song you want to play for your children at a young age to teach them how to count.
You give them a drum. Actually, wait, hold on. Does this song work if it's about a drum? No, it does not. It falls apart almost immediately.
I just remember sitting on the bus with this in putting the cassette in the Walkman and listening to this one, furiously going to the lyrics, pressing rewind, going back to the lyrics, and just shaking my head with tears coming out of the corner of my eyes.
Whoa, no, tears are falling.
Wrong album.
Indeed.
Wrong album.
No, right emotion. I mean, this was the one that really, this is the heartbreaker for me. And then it's on all the freaking recordings from that tour. I mean, they actually then put it in the set as well. It's like, what is Paul doing? I mean, he's just trying to hurt people. I mean, that blue thong must have been pulled a little bit too tight because it really made him vindictive.
Well, I mean, he had to hit those notes somehow. He probably did have it pretty tight.
And, you know, it makes sense that he would be hurting people if his love is like a cannonball, a round, thick steel object.
Mostly spherical.
Right?
With a fast fuse.
So
I love that Julian. Sorry, go.
I was actually going to say, Mike, you should probably talk since I feel like you might love this song the most sincerely out of all of us, even though I ranked it really high.
Well, yeah. But first, I was just gonna say I love that Julian referenced the math of this song because once again, "Crazy Nights" to me was also Kiss's math album because you have "Bang Bang You," which we just explained, and then "Crazy Nights" itself. So the album title, "One Crazy," the song title, "Two Crazies." The way they sing it, 4 crazies. That's multiplication right there, baby.
Powers of 2!
Yeah, as for the song, sure. I mean, I actually ranked it fairly low. I think I ranked it 9 out of 11. But again, I just love this album. Sure, it's a cheesy song. I'm not going to pretend. No, this is really serious, deep socio-political content. No, it's a goofy song. Like I referenced when I first heard this album, I really only remember Crazy Crazy Nights and Bang Bang You, and I was just like, whoa, this is all just too much. This is just too much for me. So I get how it's not for everyone. But yeah, Greg, like you said, there's just like that big chorus. It's catchy, it's entertaining, it's goofy, it's fun, and that's really just kind of a huge thing that I want out of life and want out of music. I do enjoy some darker, more serious music, some sad music sometimes, but for the most part, when I turn to music, I'm going to it for entertainment, happiness, and joy. And I'm not ashamed to admit that I get those things from Bang Bang You.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same way I enjoy a cheesy 80s action movie where it's like someone sincerely thought this was a good idea and thought this was serious. And that's the charm of it, is just the lack of self-awareness is part of the entertainment value for me. So, like, I sincerely love this, but also a lot of it is just the irony of it. Steve, you ranked this at the bottom. What do you think of Bang Bang You? Bang,
Looking
bang,
at my
Steve.
notes, I wrote, gross, no. And I believe that adequately summarizes my take on this. Like, it is Paul writing a Gene song. It's pretty gross.
But dude, he was hot.
Maybe by 70s standards. Like, I looked at that cover like, this man looks like a Wookiee in a thong.
Yeah, but he's got abs. He's got abs. He's in shape.
Okay, he looks like a Wookiee who works out in a thong.
Yeah. He's like a sexy, ripped Chewbacca. I mean, what woman wouldn't melt at that?
There's a niche for that.
Yeah, take him to a Star Wars convention. He is going to be the hottest dude there. But also it's because it's a Star Wars convention.
Yeah, that bar is pretty low.
But yeah, no, I freaking love this track. I think it's great. Any other comments on Bang Bang You before we move on?
I'd rather have a vinegar and Tabasco enema than listen to the song again.
Can I get an amen?
All right, so next up on the list, we have Good Girl Gone Bad.
Oh, yeah.
So, Steve, you ranked this the lowest.
I ranked this second from the bottom because, yeah, it's a Gene song. It's Gene being Gene.
So it's classic Gene Simmons. It's great.
Classic Gene Simmons. I think I probably would have given it more of a slide if it weren't for that what's the lyric? Like, she's got the face of a child and the body of a woman or something.
Face of a woman, hands of a child.
Face of a woman, hands of a child. Liz is
Oh,
like,
yeah, that's...
Gene, you need to stop being a creeper.
Yeah, that is a pretty creepy... That's a creepy line even by Gene Simmons standards, which is impressive.
And this is what? He's in his mid to late 30s at this point?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you need to stop hanging out outside of schools, Gene. It's weird.
See, I think you guys have it all. I think you guys have it all wrong, because if it was hands of a woman, face of a child, that would be twisted. But he wants an adult woman. He just wants those tiny hands for his schmeckle. You know?
So
Like,
his penis looks bigger. He wants the tiny hands.
Yeah.
I need you to
I
have
think
tiny
out
hands.
of the
so you can-
options, he chose the least creepy one.
he needs
I mean,
tiny
he
hands so
could've
that
just-
she can sew a little trench coat.
Call back.
I don't even know how to respond to that. It's a catchy pop tune, creepy Gene lyrics. If you're this far into the catalog at this point, you probably have given creepy Gene lyrics a pass. It's a really good thing the song didn't come out in 2019 with the Me Too movement. But you know what? I think the overall lyrical concept makes sense. You know, growing up in a small town, you know, like you see your friends, the sweet girl next door, and think about how many of like my friends from high school are now strippers. The good girl gone bad. Where just like, you know, they were sweet, they were the stereotypical classy good girls, and then they, you know, started doing heroin because everyone in the millennial generation is addicted to opioids. So the concept and theme makes sense, and it is contained within a tight pop structure with good melody. So overall, I enjoy the track. I think, like I said, this is not the album where all the Gene songs are at the bottom for me. It is not the case. I think this is a fine track from Gene.
Who had this highest?
In terms of who ranked this highest, looks like you did, Julian.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, you put it like fourth?
Fifth.
Fifth.
Yeah, I mean, 14-year-old me loves this song. I mean, it's one of the better Gene songs from the mid-'80s for me, mid to late 80s. It was just, again, the vocal on it I really like.
14-year-old you was like, I have small woman-like hands.
Well, 14-year-old me, most of the girls, you know, it's just dated in that era for me. So, you know, decent song, good vocal delivery. And, you know, as far as a Kiss song goes, come on. It's kind of right up there in terms of its subject matter.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is... I think a lot of Kiss fans would like this song better if it wasn't for the production. I think the production is what keeps a lot of people from this album. I think if you gave this Revenge-style production, like put the same song on Revenge with Bob Ezrin's production, people would say, oh, it's one of Gene's best, it's a classic, it's phenomenal. But because it's in this 80s pop context, which, yes, Gene doesn't shine in as well as Paul, they're like, oh, it's too wimpy, it's not heavy enough. But I think it's a great tune, personally.
Yeah, the demo for it's out on, again, sorry to mention Gene's Vault, but it's on there. And like the other songs without the production, it makes you reevaluate it. It's one of those songs that you're like, okay, this is a little bit tougher now. So maybe they're small hands with dirty fingernails.
Mike, what are your thoughts on this one? Oh no, did we lose Mike?
Did we lose Mike? I don't know. Oh, I see somebody chatted something. What's going on?
Showing Mike is still in the call.
Yep. It's showing him still in the call. Maybe try. Can you hang up and then connect back to the call?
Technical difficulties. And not like the awesome song.
All right. Michael Walsh left. We might just have to add him back in. Add Michael Walsh. All right. It's calling him back.
Calling him back.
Calling Michael Walsh. Nice.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Did you hear our dumb joke?
I just heard calling Michael Walsh.
We didn't plan that. We just both lapsed into that.
Yeah, I'm really sorry, guys. I have no clue. All of a sudden, you're just like, "Hey, where are you?" I'm like, "I don't know."
But
You're
also,
like I've always been.
Also, Steve, this is why we're so good for each other. We just make the same dumb jokes at the same time.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. Yeah, as for Good Girl Gone Bad, I was gonna say I really like it. It's probably one of those songs that has actually somehow subconsciously even found a way to grow on me over the years. I probably appreciate it more now than I did 20 years ago. I like again on an album like Crazy Nights, which is happier and poppier and everything for the most part. I like the feeling of Good Girl Gone Bad. It's a little bit, again, there's a little bit of a darker edge to it while still having a lot of pop sensibility. I just kind of dig the way it moves along. I really enjoy the little Paul flourish, where you get Gene singing "Good Girl" and you get Paul, "Come on." I don't know, I dig those on the song a lot. Yeah, I love the song. I always, as a teenager, a 13-year-old or whatever, I always got a kick out of the line "steaming up the windows with the radio on." That was like super badass to me, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna steam up those windows real good.
So this song doesn't predate Paradise by the Dashboard Lights, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Or did a 10-year-old Gene write this song and we just never knew it? I was just kidding.
No. Also, Jim Steinman probably wrote like Paradise by the Dashboard Light like 65 or something.
Right.
Man hasn't written a new song since 69. Just like, yeah, I'm just going to reuse this. Yeah, it works.
Just tweak the lyrics a little bit, make it about vampires. It's fine.
Right. So, if this song was about vampires, would it be better, Steve?
I mean, yeah, probably. I just Gene needs to write about things that aren't his genitals.
All right.
I have a serious question for Steve. Big criticism I'm learning from Asylum and now this one. You're very like, okay, that's enough with all the sex songs. For you, as an overall musician and or appreciator of music, do you have a roughly loose pie chart percentage of what you enjoy lyrical content to be about? I'm not even being sarcastic. I'm just trying to get a feel for what does it for Steve.
I like lyrics about a variety of topics, I think, is a big thing. So as the older I get, the less I care for the cliche of songs about love and or sex. It's just, I feel like there are enough of them, and there are so many other things that you can write songs about.
By the way, that is the exact same thing that Lawrence Gowan said. You are so freaking Canadian, dude.
We need more songs about snow and ice. And swords. All right, we're getting into metal territory. I don't know that I necessarily have a breakdown, but I like to hear songs about a bunch of different topics. I really like good stories in song, too. And I feel like, especially these sorts of ones, which are just really like a superficial, there's a girl that I think is hot kind of stories, are pretty unengaging. And it needs a more interesting narrative. That's why I was so disappointed in Thief in the Night, because it seemed like the setup of a cool story. It was like, she's a spy, she's doing all this cool espionage stuff. Oh, never mind, she's just, she's the only thing she's stealing is my dick.
I am so looking forward to the Carnival of Souls episode, dude, because that's going to be I think, a tremendous troll.
I managed to crack up my roommate who's cooking in the background with that line. He's trying to hold it in, but I heard him chuckling. How's it going, Jeremy?
Good, how you doing?
We're doing all right. We're talking about Kiss music.
I'm sure the mic is going to pick that up and it won't be annoying to edit. So, Mike, do you have a follow-up question to Steve in relation to the lyrical content?
Sure. No, I was just trying to get a little bit better feel for Steve, considering he's a guy I don't really know all that well, and I definitely picking up on that vibe that he's had enough of like all the sex songs, and I just wanted to get a little bit of his take on that, and in a totally not snarky way. I was just genuinely curious.
I'm full of nothing but snark.
That's all good. That's all good.
All right, so any other comments on Good Girl Gone Bad before we move on?
Good connections gone bad.
Heyo.
Heyo.
Yet another joke about death, perplexing some, and just plain scaring most.
All right, so next, next up on the list, we have When Your Walls Come Down. So I voted this as the last place song on the album. The line, "You'll swallow everything when you're with me," I feel like that is one of the worst Paul Stanley lyrics.
That is a pretty gross lyric.
I mean, in some ways it's crass, but there's also a clever aspect of it, because the line before is referring to dignity and one swallowing their pride.
Yes,
I think for an 80s double entendre, I think it fits in. And again, back to middle schooler me, I'm like, that's clever.
Look, I actually think this is a good song musically. I enjoy everyone's playing. I enjoy the vocal, and the line is bad, but it's so bad that I enjoy it. However, when you had Time Traveler and Sword and Stone in the wings, I'm like, man, what are you doing, guys? Like,
I know you will hate this, but I like When Your Walls Come Down better than Time Traveler.
I mean, well, you're not as much of a prog guy as I am, so I get
True.
that.
Yeah, true.
But I think this is... Time Traveler to me is a potential single. There is not a chance in hell this song is ever a single. It is a deep cut, meant to be a deep cut. It's fun. I enjoy it. But when I see what the other options are, it's like when I'm at the buffet, I'm like, man, should I get the shitty pizza? I do always get the shitty pizza.
You do every time.
But I made sure to get like more of the actual stuff that's good. So like I'll take this as a demo, but when I don't want it as the album track. But everyone else seems to disagree with me, so tell me why I'm wrong, guys.
Hey, diddle diddle.
I mean, honestly, I just missed that lyric. I probably would have ranked it lower if I'd caught it the one time I listened to the song.
So, Steve, why did you like this one?
I actually ranked it pretty well in the middle. Upper end of the middle. It's just, I think there are the ones in the middle that are in a largely random order from my perspective. This one seemed like a fairly standard Kiss song. It seemed more akin to their earlier work when they're... Kiss works really well when they're doing, triumphant, anthemic, like, everything is great kind of songs. This isn't one of those. This is one of their, like, girls are awesome and we like them a lot kind of songs. Sorry, I got a Snake Vomit song stuck in my head. I just began singing girls are awesome" to myself and dossed myself.
I mean, Snake Vomit is an amazing, great band. So
Snake Vomit is better than Kiss, especially when they play Kiss.
Yeah, I won't fight that. I think, like I said, it's a fine song. I think Kiss works better for me when they're anthemic, believe in yourself songs. I think the fact that even Steve is able to appreciate those songs with all of his cynicism shows, I think, how good Kiss is when they do that.
I think at this point in Kiss's catalog, any one of these songs would be like a really solid not any one of these songs. Any one of these albums could make what I would consider a really solid EP of like 4 or 5 songs. It'd be like, yeah, this is really good. This is a tight little production that I am having a good time listening to.
So basically like like the 80s Kiss albums, you would say there's a bunch of filler, but 4 songs you'd say, yeah, these are really good. I could jam to this.
Yeah.
That's, I've heard a lot of people say that about 80s Kiss. So All right, that's validation and proof, just like how you proved that Megadeth was better than Metallica.
Right.
So
Wait, that doesn't need to be proved. That's just fact.
right, but Steve Steve verified it on podcast.
Excellent.
Now you're talking.
So, but any other? I don't really have that much to say about this one. Do you guys have anything else to say about When Your Walls Come Down?
This was kind of middle of my list, and I'm trying to figure out why. Because maybe it was because Paul wasn't singing so stratospherically, but it's really not that great a song, but it's not as bad as Bang Bang You, so that's probably why.
I think the problem with this song is you're right. It's not as bad as Bang Bang You, and that's why Bang Bang You is better. Because Bang Bang You is more ridiculous, more silly. Now, the only way Bang Bang You could be better is if the line, "You'll swallow everything when you're with me," was in Bang Bang You. That's the only way that song could be better. But this song, yeah, it's fine. Competent, fun little rock tune.
Crazy Mike, you got thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I did mention that I liked it. I think the thing I like about it is, especially on the Crazy Nights album, after like the last 4 Kiss albums, even though I love Crazy Nights, it's definitely a less rockin' album overall, and I like that it's one of the more up-tempo rockin' songs on the album. I was glad to still have one like that on the album. Well, there's a couple, but so I think it's enjoyable for that reason. I dig all of the sexual cliches and innuendos and nursery rhyme references, or whatever you want to call it.
Looking at that lyric, I'm a little disappointed that they just used the lyric diddle as originally used in the nursery rhyme.
As opposed to using diddle about something else?
Well, I mean, diddle is a word often used for, have sex with.
Yeah.
Hey, fiddle, when the cat wants to diddle.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what they're getting at.
Maybe.
But the kitten's got to give him the moon. Oh, dear God.
Whatever that means.
Yes.
It's my favorite song about Peter Criss.
All right,
I'm done talking about this crappy song. This is part of that Peter Criss impregnation fanfic.
Peter Criss impreg with a cat and the moon.
All right, so I'm just going to move on.
Next song.
Next on the list, we have "I'll Fight Hell to Hold You."
Julian's namesake.
Right, I'll fight Julian to hold you. Julian, this is your namesake song, so tell us a little bit about why you love this one so much.
Yeah, this one's actually in my top 4 for the album. And again, I mentioned it at the top of this show, that when I discovered that one of these German power rockers, Rod Gonzalez, had done a disco version of it, it blew me away how good it was. And that made me go back and reevaluate the song itself. And it really came down to, it's a fantastic song sung way too high. You can go on YouTube and find a version that's been down-tuned a half step, and it sounds absolutely incredible. It's actually an extremely good song once you take those vocals out of the stratosphere and, change the thong for some boxers. I mean, come on, let things breathe. The song comes out. The lyrics, well, it's kind of the yearning, Paul. So, I like the subject matter. I think it's a far better crafted song, and maybe Bruce is being all reasonable, so it's got some great riffs as well. So much better song than many of the others that we've discussed thus far. Well, obviously, because we're going in order.
Right?
Yeah, I think this is lyrically one of the best tunes on the album. This is the kind of Kiss lyrics you don't have to be embarrassed about, is what I like to say about songs like these. It's Paul Stanley, man of passion, and as a big Jim Steinman fan, I'm reminded of the song "I'd Do Anything for Love," where he's like, "I'd run right into hell and back," and that is epic and romantic and powerful. And so to hear Paul Stanley saying, "I would fight hell to hold you," that is such a romantic sentiment, and mixed in this cool kind of epic feeling rock song. The lyrics are cool. Yeah, Paul is singing a little bit too high, and it sounds a little bit like he's straining to stay into that stratosphere. And I get it. Paul Stanley has said in interviews he was more fascinated with what his voice could do and was having fun with it because he just wanted to see how far he could push his voice. And that is a valid form of musical expression where you want to push yourself to your absolute limits. I think it distracted from the song a little bit and wasn't what was necessarily best for the material, in the same way that, a guitar player just wants to shred over everything. I get it. I understand it. And I wish he would have restrained a little bit to make the song shine a bit more, but as it stands, it's a fun tune. I think it's well crafted and well performed, even if it might not have been the best vocal direction for the track. I think it's still a good vocal for the track. So I wouldn't say it's a bad vocal, maybe not the right vocal.
He needs to put the man in romantic and take it down a few steps.
Right.
But I've got the same thoughts. So this is something I've complained about in a couple of the 80s albums where Paul is clearly experimenting with how high his voice can go and like pushing himself physically. This is an interesting one in that most of those songs that I've complained about that are a little boring melodically. It's just like hit the highest note he can and nail it over and over and over again. Whereas this one actually seems to have a decent melody. It's just in the wrong register. He's singing too high and it's shrill and doesn't work. I'd be interested in seeing the version that Julian heard that takes it down a notch.
Go on YouTube. It's there. Just, what do you do? Punch in, I'll fight hell to hold you, half step down.
Yeah.
So, okay, wait, did you listen to somebody edited the song, or somebody covered the song half step down?
Oh, someone threw it into Audacity and dicked with it.
Okay.
Yeah, so artificially done. But, give it a listen and see what you think.
And, Mike, how about you?
I'm not really disagreeing with anything that anyone's saying, especially because I love Paul as a singer. I love 80s rock vocals. I love vocals more, the high pitch, like kind of excessive vocals. I love those definitely more than most people. But even then, there are limits. They don't ruin the song for me, but I agree. In some ways, it's like, whoa, that's probably a bit much. Greg, I think you probably said it best. Not a bad vocal, but maybe not the best option for the song. I feel strange saying this, but I put this song at number 11 out of 11, and I don't have a particular reason why. Again, I love the Crazy Nights album. There's no dislike for it. I guess I just get something more out of every other song. I really like Bruce's playing on I'll Fight Hell to Hold You. I really, at times, really dig Paul's vocal and then at least respect it when it's getting really extreme. It's an enjoyable song. There just isn't something that moves me as much as the others, whether it's fun, whether it's a smirk on my face, whether it's like, ooh, that's interesting. For some reason, I get less of that from I'll Fight Hell to Hold You, even though I think it's a stellar song.
What I really think this song needs to be about 6 minutes longer with a Jim Steinman co-write.
Much like there's the half-step down-tuned version on YouTube, I would absolutely love to hear a Greg Troyan presents a Jim Steinman extended edit of I'll Fight Hell to Hold You. So if you can make that happen, I will champion that cause.
Lipstick, the Kiss covers album coming soon.
You know what? If we can get a GoFundMe for that, we will absolutely do it. And also, spoilers for our next single, dude. We'll just say there is a certain Kiss-related tune coming out from Lipstick, and I can say this pretty safely, our guitars have never sounded better. So I'll leave it at that for now. But next up on the list, we have No, No, No.
Maybe, maybe, maybe.
All right, so Steve, you tend to hate Kiss thrashy songs. What did you think of this one?
This one was weird because it just didn't sound like Kiss. I had to double check so this was a Gene vocal, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so like this entire thing sounded like, I don't know what band. I don't know, maybe Extreme or something like that, but it just... with the
Whoa, don't insult Kiss.
I kind of like Extreme. I was trying to think of what band it sounded like, but it didn't sound like Kiss. It sounded like a different 80s hair band. I tossed this one in the middle just because I didn't know where else to put it. It's about as out of place on this album, I think, as Time Traveler would have been.
But did you like it? So as out of place as it might be.
It was all right. I mean, it's not really the style of music that I'm all that into.
I mean, it's just, I'm just sort of interested in your thoughts on it, because I guess, like, one of the things that Gene has said about this one is that he was trying too hard to write something that would impress people musically, that showed that Kiss were decent players, is, one of the things he said about this song. And this one's a weird one for me, because structure-wise, it's just like this weird kind of thrashy rock song, a bunch of different moving parts, and not the kind of Kiss song I'm typically as into, but I like it a lot. And I wonder if part of it is just from me seeing the live video of them doing it at the Donington Festival, and just really resonating with the live version and thinking that was sweet, and then loving the studio version because of it. And so it's one of those hard songs that's hard for me to wrap my brain around as to why I like it so much. But just at the end of the day, if it's, do I like it? I do. It's a cool rock song. It's fast. It's energetic. And it's got some great playing. And you know what? That sort of weird, dissonant chorus, it's weird and dissonant, but it's catchy. And so I dig it. It's weird. It's a little bit out of left field, but it rocks. It's catchy and it's fun. So yeah, thumbs up from me.
I think I'm the opposite to you. I love it live and hate it on the album. Never liked it at all. I thought, what on earth is this doing? Why are they having Anvil write songs for them? It just seemed to be dreadful. But then I see it in the context of the set, and it's really fun. And it's like a kick in the pants. It's, Bruce gets to be guitar hero and do his thing. So, it's in the bottom half of my list, but I prefer it live than the studio version. But I can see why they put it on, because it's something different. It's something very, in that era, in terms of the guitar hero kind of track that you need to have on an album.
Yeah, and I think I heard the live version first, so that's why I thought it was cool, because I saw it in the context of the set. I'm like, oh, that's a cool song. And then I heard the studio version, which is obviously a little bit more polished, but it's still just, it's that same song that I heard and liked. So I was like, yeah, okay, this is just the version I have on CD. This is cool. Mike, how about you? What are your thoughts on No, No, No?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, No, No, No was kind of the song that really made me a Crazy Nights enthusiast. When I listened to that Bruce Kulick interview talking about, oh yeah, there's this cool song on the album where I just kind of started with this like ripping guitar solo, and that was totally right up my alley back then. Still really right up my alley now. So, I put the thing on and I was like, oh, this is so cool. There's just like this solo, and and then it's just a rocker. You guys call them like thrashy songs. I've always called those rockers. That's just like my term for that kind of song. And a song like that's going to get me every time. I love that style. I just love that energetic, like up-tempo, fun, cool stuff going on with riffs and solos and stuff. Even kind of, sorry, Steve, regardless of what the lyrical content is, you can pretty much throw any song like that at me, and usually it's going to get me every time. So, yeah, I think I ranked this one at number 3. I'm a big fan of it. Not a lot I can say, just other than the fact that No, 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 I love, love, love.
Honestly, for a Gene song, these lyrics are pretty good.
Yeah.
These are, fairly innocuous. He's got that second verse about like what's yours is yours and yours is mine and sign on the dotted line. Like, his shtick as his character is meant to be the demon, right? So that whole Faustian deal, trading your soul for sex, I guess, seems to be in character, but he's exploring it in a way that has more depth than he generally does. Yeah.
Okay, so you dig like Evil Contract Gene. I dig it.
Yeah, Evil Contract Gene is better than like just creeping on high school's Gene.
I mean, that's pretty valid.
Although the age difference between, Demon Gene stealing souls is probably much greater than the age difference than 36-year-old Gene, hanging outside of your school.
Right. I also love the idea of a big, successful rock star Gene Simmons in a nice car hanging out in front of a school, and also because he couldn't drive at the time, like having a driver, so like he has an accomplice. So that's pretty tremendous.
This is my chauffeur / wingman.
So I will say, as far as the thrashy thing goes, I'm actually largely saying that as a facetious joke. I think Steve is saying it seriously, but I don't really consider these songs to be really that thrashy.
I mean, I don't think this one was particularly thrashy.
Right. But as far as the Guitar Hero thing, when we did the Loudness episode, there was the discussion about why they had the guitar solos sequenced on the album that way was because they wanted a counterpoint to Eddie Van Halen, to say, we have a shredder who can keep up with Eddie Van Halen. And you listen to the intro of No, 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 which is in many ways sort of a, hey, look what we can do. This is our version of Eruption, the intro of this song, where it's just guitar solo and drums together. So, is it a ripoff of Eruption? I wouldn't say so, but I think it's meant to call back that and make you think, oh, wow, Kiss has a shredder.
Yeah, I was going to say we kind of earlier talked about, well, there's been a lot of talk about production on this album, good and bad, and there's mixed opinions and everything. I thoroughly enjoy the production. I think it's very good. I like it. Is it my favorite production style ever? Would I want every album in the world to sound like this? Maybe not. I really dig it. But one of my highlights for the production on this album, I really dig the lead guitar tone. I don't know. I just think the solos, I really dig the way they sound on this album, and that is a huge. It's one of my favorite things about the album. I just think the solos sound fantastic. I mean, playing wise, but also just sonically.
Yeah, I agree. I think the tones on the album are great all around. I think great guitar tone, great bass tone, and I think the drum sound is maybe the best. I'd say yes, definitely the best Eric Carr has sounded since Creatures. I think it's a really great drum sound for this album. Absolutely. But yeah, any other thoughts on No, No, No before we move on?
No.
Och, 'tis a mighty bottle of puke.
Way too harsh on this song. This is a fun one.
There's a 2 in 3 chance that when I hit the transition drop button, it's going to be mean.
All right, so next up on the list, we're finally at one of the singles on the album. We've got Reason to Live next on the list. Bit divisive in the rankings. Some of us ranked it towards the top. Some of us ranked it towards the middle. So, Julian, you ranked it the highest. What's so great about this tune other than the hot chick in the video?
The hot chick in the video.
All right. Well, that's Julian's commentary.
14-year-old me. Again, I always loved this song. I mean, maybe while I was getting into heavier music at the time, just a nice soppy ballad, extremely well done and executed. It's a beautiful song. It's just so wonderfully crafted. It's got a great video. It's just one of those high quality pieces of work that, again, when I was in England in '88, the single was all over the place and it didn't have a thong on the cover. So, I mean, come on, that's a win. So, I've just loved this song from day one. It stays high on my list. It's very high up my list of, all-time favorite Kiss songs as well.
Imagine if you took like all of the teenagers who were listening to Kiss in the 80s and you told them before they ever saw this album cover, be like, dude, the Crazy Nights album cover has a thong on it. Like, so many of them would be like, yes, that sounds great. And then they would buy it and they'd be like, oh, wait, it's Paul in a thong. Oh, no. Why would you do this to us?
Dude!
But, dude, he was hot.
I mean, I would.
So, Mike, you are a lover of this album, and this is considered one of the standout cuts from this album from many people. Give us your thoughts on this one and why you hate it so much.
Oh, wow. So I was the lowest ranking?
You and Steve both gave it 4 points.
Okay. No hate at all. I know I say the same thing every time, but this is like my de facto favorite album out of like literally like 5,000. So anything I dislike on this album is still a huge love in my heart. No, I think it's a great song. Like Julian said, big and sappy, very 80s. I love that. It's catchy. You can sing it. Big old chorus. I love just like the dramatic feeling of it. Not a criticism, because it's nothing against the greatness of this song, but perhaps more of it would have been my suggestion for Kiss at the time if I was an A&R guy or something like that. It might have been a good route for them. They were going for like a big commercial 80s rock album. Might have been a good decision to go for like a big, happy, like positive love ballad. This one's almost kind of like getting over a heartbreak, like looking for a reason to live that can't be your love, kind of thing. So great song, but in terms of commercial appeal, maybe a more traditional, like, yay, love is awesome ballad would have been more successful. I will say, though, I love hearing Julian talk about it, and I've heard many people say over the years, like, I've never been to England, but I love this little, like, fantasy world I've created in my mind, where Crazy Nights was, like, the biggest album in England of, like, 1987 and 1988, which, may not necessarily be true, but I love that it did so well over there, and that Crazy Nights is their highest charting single over there. It's a mythical land I love thinking about.
Land.
My favorite album.
The land where the Beatles came from and people love Crazy Nights. That sounds like it's a pretty awesome
That sounds
place.
amazing, right? Yeah. I want
They
to
have
move
clotted
there.
cream as far as the eye can see. It's tremendous.
There's a reason I left England.
Oh,
Do you not like
was
Clouded
it Crazy
Cream?
Nights?
Crazy Nights being such a hit single, that summer was torture when that thing was on the chart. You could not go anywhere. It was everywhere. It's like a plague.
See, and this sounds like Mike's dream where, like,
I was
hear
just saying,
Crazy Nights
Julian's
wherever I go.
nightmare is like my fantasy. Yeah, it's the grass is always greener on the other side of the Atlantic.
So I want to respond to Mike's point real quick about the ballad being a little bit darker and less optimistic. To me, the Ron Nevison production that this reminds me of, in particular, is the Heart song Alone, which is a little bit more of a negative song because it's pining and, just trying desperately to get with the person and maybe not having success with it. So that's also kind of a darker song, and that worked really well for Heart. So I can see them thinking this will work well for Kiss because it has a very similar approach. And in terms of like the synths and the big sing-along chorus, like I view those very much as companion songs in a lot of ways. I think this is a great song. It deserved to be bigger than it was. As far as Kiss ballads go, it's actually towards the bottom of my Kiss ballad ranking because I think they have so many great ballads on other albums. And spoilers, the ballad on the next album crushes this one by a pretty wide margin.
It is a pretty phenomenal ballad, yeah.
But it's still it's a great song, incredibly well produced, phenomenal vocal from Paul Stanley at his peak. Just great tune, and I expected Steve to hate this one even more than he did because it's a ballad and he hates ballads.
I mean, as far as ballads go, this one's actually pretty solid. Honestly, this one sort of falls prey to the bunch of stuff in the middle that got lumped semi-randomly just because I rushed through this ranking a little bit. I think I rank this one a little bit lower. I'm not generally super into ballads, but again, this one was catchy for it.
And also, they did the thing you like where the ballad was buried deep in the album, not track 3.
That's true.
So they Kiss did it exactly the way you wanted it.
They sequenced it correctly. What probably is the biggest ding against this one in my book is the production. This is the only one where the production, I think, hurts this song, and that the production of this song is super 80s. This one, all the rest of the songs, if you were going to do a hard rock song anytime, past the late 90s, it would have sounded much the way most of the rest of this album does. This is the only one that definitely sounds like an artifact of the 80s to me.
So you're saying it's a little too dated for you?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's a very 80s sounding song. I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with certain artifacts of dated production. I think I'm fine with. Like, I think this, if you're going to be dated in the sense of like we sound really lush and pretty, I'd rather have that be your dated artifact of production as opposed to dated artifacts of early 2000s production where everyone has a record scratch.
Yeah, that's true. That's
so like,
wiki,
oh no,
wiki.
We're dated because we sound lush, full, and rich. Like, there are worse ways to sound dated, so I'm fine with this being a dated sounding song. But also, I do like 80s music a lot. I don't like the sound of 80s music as much as I like 70s music. I think, there are different moods for me, but I think, like, the lushness of this production is something that, yes, even if dated, is something to marvel at as a producer, where it's stuck in the times, but it is so well done, where you can admire the craft of it, where it's like, yes, this is kind of similar to a lot of other stuff that was going on, but they did a really great job with it. Where it'd be a goal for us to produce something this lush and rich sounding. Because, I mean, that's a great sounding track. Any other thoughts on Reason to Live before we move on?
Oh, did you mention the apparent ripoff of Foreigners? I Want to Know What Love Is. Because it has been accused of being essentially a rewrite of that. I mean, the production of it is exactly what Ron Nevison was great at. When you look at the other albums that he had done and had hits with, he was trying to do the exact same thing as Shot in the Dark, as What About Love, as Alone from Heart. So it's right in there. So it's got Nevison's fingerprints all over its sound. You can group it in with those other three songs, and they're all in the same sort of school of sound.
Yeah, I mean, Nevison has a distinct sound, much in the same way that Bob Rock has a distinct sound. You put on Metallica's Load, and you put the Karabi Motley Crue album together, on back to back. Those are very similar sounding albums. So, certain producers have their trademark sound, and Nevison definitely had his at the time. So, no,
but I don't think any of those other ones sound dated, like Steve was suggesting. That Reason to Live sounds dated to him. I'm just disagreeing with that kind of, because when I hear the Heart songs or Ozzy's, they're just, to my ears, or maybe, I don't know what, just timeless, great productions.
Yeah, I mean, I lean more towards that, but also, Steve is, he's a millennial, and
it's true.
Most of my millennial peers do not listen to 80s music. They listen to music that was contemporary when they were growing up. A lot of millennials are not very interested in going into the past and checking out older music. And so when they hear an older song, they can't take it seriously. And a lot of it comes down to the production choices, because they just view it as dated and that's what the old people like. But me personally, as a guy who likes old person music, I don't even think of this as an older or dated sounding production. I just think of this as a great sounding production. Like, the dated thing doesn't even cross my mind with this track. But that's just it's a difference in perspective. Mike,
we're blessed to have a millennial who actually likes it.
There's at least two of us. There's me and Andrew from Kiss My Collectible. So you got a whole two of us.
All both of you.
All both of us. Mike, did you have anything to add before we moved on?
One thing I just wanted to agree with Steve, although I would say I'd probably much more prefer ballads than you do. I'm very much in agreement that they belong a little bit later on an album. I just think that's a better fit. It's a really weird way to kick off an album with like a couple of songs and then just like totally slow it down with a ballad. And I also just want to give a lot of love to Ron Nevison. He's become one of those producers who's become very popular to kind of trash and say he sucked and had no clue what bass was and that a lot of his stuff sounds dated. But a lot of his work is some of my favorite stuff. I mean, Crazy Nights, huge favorite album of mine. I would also say Survivor's Vital Signs is one of my favorite albums of all time. And just a whole bunch of his work. Heart, Ozzy Osbourne, I like what he did with Damn Yankees. I just think he's a great producer who, unfortunately, has become one of those guys who's kind of cool to trash.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's a great producer too. Could have worked on song selection for this album, but otherwise, yeah, in terms of sonics, he's definitely great.
Just needs more time travel.
Yeah. All right, so next up on the list, we've got a Gene song beating out one of the singles. We've got Hell or High Water next on the list.
Put this straight in the middle. Called it All Right.
Yeah, when I was reevaluating this album for this episode, this is one of the ones I've heard a lot of people point to as one of Gene's best 80s songs. It was on the box set. I've heard people say, oh, Hell or High Water is a great song. And I will say there's a lot of good about this song. I think the lyrics are pretty strong. It's romantic Gene, which is kind of weird. That it's like not creepy Gene, but it's like sincerely like romantic Gene, where part of the chorus is like, I want to wrap my arms around you. Like, that's really tender.
His arms are his dick.
So, getting back on the rails, the tenderness from Gene Simmons is something I didn't expect, but it's also a song that still rocks really hard. Like I said, great vocal, kind of harkening back to the elder days in terms of his clean singing. And you know what? I think this song is catchy enough where it could have been a single. This could have been a single had Crazy Nights done better as an album and had more momentum, where it became like a Hysteria or a Thriller, where just, most of the album ended up being singles because the album just kept, building and building and building. If it was a Hysteria kind of album where just like most of the songs ended up being singles, I could see this being the first Gene single off the album and actually doing pretty well.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's the most Gene single for sure on the album.
Is there any relation writing-wise between this one and I'll Fight Hell to Hold You? So I feel like they're both...
I know Bruce co-wrote Hell or High Water. Did he co-write I'll Fight Hell to Hold You?
Julian, you wrote the book on it. You should know this.
Yes, he did.
It's the Bruce Kulick factor.
All right, Bruce just gluing this album together. Once again, shout out to Bruce Kulick for just being an all-around phenomenal musician and nice guy. Favorite Kiss guitarist. Does super great on this album in terms of both writing and playing. The man does not nearly get praised enough. And I know a lot of Kiss fans praise him, but he needs more praise. You know how, Mike, you need to live in that world where Kiss is even more popular? I do. I really do. A world where Bruce Kulick gets more praise than he does, because that man is phenomenal.
For me, it's the same world where Kiss is way bigger and Bruce is considered their best guitarist, and everyone worships him like a guitar god. Yeah, it's all intertwined, and it's all in England. Yeah.
We should have had Jeremy on this episode.
One of the great things about this song is, for a Gene song, it actually feels like a song rather than a collection of phrases thrown together into a blender and poured out. It actually seems like it was written with purpose. And that's what makes it such a great song for me on this album. I mean, I ranked this number 3 on the album, so love it. Great. And, going back to Bruce, the guitar work on this album is absolutely stellar. If you just sit there and listen to it with headphones on and you tune out the lyrics, you tune out everything else and just focus in on Bruce's work, there's enough of attack and variety and balls as the same as Revenge. I mean, he really wasn't someone who suddenly became a great guitarist with Revenge. He was a great guitarist already, and that's so evident on this album when you focus in on his work. Great guitarist.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think in some ways his playing on Revenge is overrated because they act like, oh, Bruce suddenly got good. No, Kiss just got heavier production. Bruce has always been great. You just weren't paying attention, is sort of my thoughts on that. We're like, yes, his playing on Revenge is great, but I think it just has to do with the production more than his playing, like, being that much better, personally. But, one thing I want to touch on just again is especially the lyrical content on this song. It is very interesting to hear hard-rocking 80s anthemic sing-along song that is very respectful towards women. My wife actually enjoys this Kiss album more than most Kiss albums. When we were listening to it in the car, and she was like, wait, this is actually, like, pretty good. Like, the lyrics aren't degrading towards women, because we were listening to Hell or High Water. When we went through the entire CD and got back to Bang Bang You, she's like, wait, hold on.
Never mind.
Never mind.
Come hell or high water, I will respect you.
But, like, that's... To hear a hard Gene Simmons song that's very respectful towards women but also rocks at the same time is sort of proof that you can have it both ways, where you can write a cool rock song and not degrade women at the same time. this is proof that you can do it and come up with something really awesome. But that said, it's less catchy than his creepy song. So overall in the catalog, it's not one of my favorite Gene songs. I like Christine 16 better because it's catchier, even though it's more problematic. But I still think this is a cool song and kind of a fascinating cut when you look at all the components.
You really sounded like a guidance counselor for a minute there when you're like, this just goes to prove that you don't have to be degrading to women to have a good time. Now, fellow kids, let's rap about something. Turns chair backwards and sits down on it.
Don't forget, I also flip my cap backwards.
How are you doing, fellow kids?
I understood that reference.
So, Mike, did you have some thoughts on this one? Some more thoughts?
Yeah, I ranked it pretty high. I think I put it at 5. I'm afraid to go check my list. I don't want to do anything on my phone right now.
Yeah, you gave it 6 points.
6. Okay, so yeah, I mean it's really good. I totally agree. It's the most single potential of the Gene songs on the album. I dig the chorus. This song and pretty much all of Gene's vocals on the album, just that clean vocal, very different than what he had been doing for quite a few years. I'm guessing that's Ron Neverson. I love both. I love his Cookie Monster vocals. I love his clean vocals on this album. It's really cool to hear. Just not even necessarily my opinion. It's just a fun little tidbit I want to throw out just because I can. The first time I met Bruce Kulick, he said that he got the idea for this song when he was taking a bath with his girlfriend, and she said something along the lines of come hell or high water, I'm going to be there for you, babe. And he said that was the genesis of his idea for this song. So
that's why the lyrics are good, because it's Bruce.
So, yeah.
It all makes sense now.
Also, the water would be less high if there's only one person in the tub, you know?
That's a great point.
But also, that is so perfect because it is so rock and roll. Yes, I'm in a bathtub with my sexy girl, but also I'm Bruce Kulick, so I'm going to respect her. Yeah, you know what? This song just got way better for me.
I'm glad I shared.
That's tremendous. All right. Well, we are in the top 3, gentlemen. Next up on the list, we have My Way. Julian, how shocked are you by this?
Oh, yeah. Julian hated this one.
I need another bottle of LSD.
So are you shocked, or you're like, you know what? I'm looking at the schmucks I'm here with. This makes perfect sense.
A little bit of both, to be perfectly honest. No, I hate this song so much. It's everything that's wrong with Paul on this album, represented in one 3-minute piece of torture. I despise it. I just can't say anything good about this song. I mean, I have nothing positive to say, so I'm just going to shut up.
All right, so Steve, you like this one a lot. Why don't you tell Julian why you like Kiss more than him?
So to be fair, I ranked this one 3rd. It seemed just in general, it was a fairly decently put together song. The only part of it that really stuck in my craw at all was the fade. The fade out at the end was, I don't know, weird, and didn't really work for me. But otherwise, this is, Kiss doing Kiss at their sort of, not necessarily their peak level, but their sort of high operating level.
So you're saying this is Kiss doing Kiss right, according to Steve.
Right-ish. Right enough.
Well, if you get away from the hamster helium vocals, lyrically, it's a great song. It's the sort of anthem that Paul Stanley loves writing. I mean, here in the danger zone, it's a jagged edge we climb, but if you take it like stone, you can stand. Come on. It's like King of the Mountain on helium. And it was just, it's the vocals. It's, Oh, God.
When he says, if you take it like a stone, is that in the same way as sword and stone?
No, that in that case, it's actually just if you take it, tough. If you stay strong.
Not stone as a euphemism for what
No.
he's putting his penis into.
No. So I think this is, like, lyrically one of Kiss's best songs. I think, the core stuff I took away from Kiss as a young listener were songs like this, It's My Life, the title track off this album, these Believe in Yourself shonen anthems, Follow Your Dreams, work hard, hang tough,
Awesome.
you can do it. So I totally buy into it. This song, a number of people who have listened to this song with me have asked me, is this a song from one of the Rocky movies? I have heard
Nice.
a number of people say that. My wife said it. One of my buddies, Michael Von Mueller, who we had on the podcast, when he first heard the song, he thought it was a Rocky training montage song, and then we wrote a joke script about a Donkey Kong Country film adaptation, and then used this as the training montage song in our script that we wrote. So, but this is a nerd. Yeah, I mean, no, it was a troll script. We also used the Pretty Boy Floyd song Slam Dunk and had a character named Slam Dunk who is really good at basketball in our Donkey Kong Country script. So we were just listening to a bunch of hair metal writing the worst movie possible.
So what you're saying is that your Donkey Kong Country script was in fact a sequel to Charles Barkley's Shut Up and Jam Gaiden?
Yes, in many ways.
Did I get that name right?
Yeah, you did.
Nerd!
But I think
I thought I had more drops under that category than just the Revenge of the Nerds one.
Phenomenal tune. I love the vocal on it because it shows what Paul Stanley is capable of as a singer. I think the melody works much better than I'll Fight Hell to Hold You in terms of melody succeeding. I love the cheesy keyboards. It's fun. It's anthemic. The only ding I will have against this one is that it's called My Way, and the fact that the Sinatra song exists and is such a huge monumental song to call another song My Way takes some balls. It isn't as good as the other My Way. Anka wrote it better. But yeah, this is a damn fine tune and one of the best Kiss songs in the catalog. Hashtag Hot Take Troyan.
Oh, I've got a drop specifically for that.
I'm insane with anger!
Mike, what are your thoughts on My Way?
Where to begin? Well, I love the whole "Is This a Rocky" song. That's amazing to me because I love the Rocky movies. Rocky IV in particular, I love it as a movie. I
Best
love
one.
it.
Yeah, on our Rocky ranking episode, that ended up being the best Rocky movie according to our
Nice.
panel.
Yeah, it's like my second or third, but I love it. It's like the most musical of the Rocky movies. So that was 85. And then the next one was 1990, Rocky V, which is the worst of the Rockies. I love to now think of an alternate universe where maybe Rocky V came out in 88 and My Way was like the big theme song of the movie. All of that coming together would be better for Rocky. It would be better for Kiss. Win-win for both parties. It was super win for Mike Walsh, just like loving Kiss and loving Rocky. So that makes me super happy. I guess My Way is as good a time as any to mention something I was thinking way earlier, Greg, when you were talking about how the opinions of Crazy Nights are very divided, where there's a lot of love and there's also a lot of hate. From my life experience, at least as a huge Kiss fan, but then also a big like 80s rock fan, it's been my kind of take that a lot of Kiss fans are pretty hard on it, but a lot of people who just love 80s rock and are just kind of casual Kiss fans, a lot of them cite Crazy Nights as like their introduction to Kiss or their favorite Kiss album or one of their favorite Kiss albums. So it seems to do very well in like general 80s rock circles, whereas it's, tougher for like diehard Kiss fans. And to be fair, if I was a guy who had been around since the 70s, if I was hearing something like My Way, I'd probably be like, yeah, this is bullshit too. Because there's bands that I have loved over the last 10, 15, 20 years who have come out and kind of started more rockin' and raw and then got more polished and everything. And I was like, they sold out. This is shit. So I can get it to an extent. One critique of the Crazy Nights album that kind of, irritates me is when people make it sound like it's just drowning in keyboards, like some sort of Eurythmics like synth pop album. Because I think that's really dramatic and really over exaggerating. To be fair, though, if any song does have the keyboards criticism, it would be My Way. Although for me, I love it. I love that it's got to be like the most straight up, what I'm going to call a keyboard riff in like the Kiss catalog, where it's just very synth driven. I love the song. Again, anthemic, feel good, believe in yourself. Definitely has those high Paul vocals, but I do agree that they're more effective than on I'll Fight Hell to Hold You. There's like that insane Walk Like I Walk note he hits towards the end of the song, which, if I'm not mistaken, is like the highest non-falsetto note he hits in any Kiss song. I love the solo from Bruce. It's not like a hard rock song, but then all of a sudden you just get this great solo from Bruce. And kind of going back to what you said about Revenge. So out of the Bruce albums, his first one was Asylum, and I think he's just going insane on that one in a great way. But just like, I'm the new guy, I'm going to shred. It's the mid-'80s, that's what we do, we shred. I think he goes great on that. By the time you got to Revenge, it's hard rock, more hard production and less in guitar hero stuff and more like playing to the song and everything. So with Crazy Nights being somewhat in the middle of those two, I think it's more Guitar Hero than Revenge, but a little more structured maybe than what he was doing on the album before on Asylum. I feel like the solos are just really mapped out and planned out and just very, very beautifully executed. I love them. So My Way, as just a huge fan of 80s rock and Kiss and big vocals and Believe in Yourself and awesome guitar, just ding, ding, ding is checking all those boxes and just making me very, very happy.
And that's why all of us are right and Julian is wrong. Any other comments on My Way before we move on?
I would say,
actually, any more comments? I'll use Paul Stanley's words against you all. Just because you can sing that high doesn't actually mean that you should.
He said that himself?
Yeah.
He has gone back and thought he overdid it on Crazy Nights. Which, I respect him being candid about saying, like, yeah, I probably overdid it. I should have shown more restraint. But, man, I love this tune. Makes me want to go work out in Russia and punch communism in the face.
Yeah, you do realize that only dogs can actually hear the third verse.
Yeah, but those dogs that the Russians will have chasing me while I'm running through the snow up the mountain, they'll hear Paul Stanley's high-pitched vocals and they'll stop chasing me. So Paul Stanley's on my side fighting communism for America.
Da, comrade, I will break you.
So sorry, Steve. Before we derailed that with more training montage talk,
I was going to comment on what Mike said about the keyboards on this album. I feel like, in general, the keyboard use on this album, while it's more than in most Kiss albums, is still generally very tasteful.
Yeah, you're spot on. It kills it for a lot of Kiss fans. And I can respect that. Again, going back to like a rock and roll over sound to this is kind of night and day, but it's just not drowning you like on every 10 seconds of every song. Again, very tasteful. You nailed it.
More like a crazy night and day. Hey-o.
I mean, yeah, really, it's the idea that Kiss are sellouts because they're starting to use better production values and keyboards. But no, Kiss are sellouts because that is fundamentally who they are. This is a massive merchandising project. They sold out as soon as they could. They just changed what they sound like as they do it every once in a while.
Yeah, I think the idea of calling Kiss sellouts, that's always been the goal. I think there was one commentator who said Kiss has never had an agenda other than capitalism. And I'm like, yeah. So when Metallica complains about people being sellouts and then they play private corporate gigs, they sold out. And they're being hypocrites. But Kiss, to their credit, they were never hypocrites about it. They're like, yeah, we want to make money. That's why we're playing rock music in the United States. Duh. So, you know what? Good for them.
Good for them being consistent in their, amorality.
I mean, as we are trying to, make money in a rock band with merchandise, and we also have stuffed animals of our mascot.
That's true.
I think
I love that mascot.
Oh, thank you. But I
It's
think
one of the best things you've ever done with your life.
you know what?
We'll take it.
Yeah,
I actually meant that sincerely. I really did. Yeah.
No, I mean honestly, like that mascot is the most popular member of the band by a pretty wide margin. But yeah, I would say that that little doodle that I just drew on the whiteboard at work one day and then just became the mascot for my band, I didn't see it becoming as popular as it had become, and I'm glad I created that too. But the point is, merchandising is fine if you do it with integrity. Anyway, the lipstick coffin is coming soon. So, next up on the list, we are at the number 2 song on the album. And this was the toughest decision for me on the album, because my top 2 are the top 2. And I ranked this song at number 2, but it was like by a hair. So next up on the list, we have the title track, Crazy Crazy Nights. Julian, you're wrong. I'm just going to start with that.
Yeah, everybody ranked these top 2 in the top 2, except for Julian. Was like, no.
Out of curiosity, where were his?
So, like, the top 2, everyone else ranked top 2. The order might have been slightly different, but then Julian ranked the winner as the number 1 song, and then put this other song, with only 5 points?
Yeah, he gave it 5 out of a possible 11.
Okay.
Julian, do you just hate crowds? Do you hate believing in yourself and partying with friends? What's going on, man?
Is everything okay at home, Julian?
Yes.
No.
Oh.
Because, I didn't have a radio and it wouldn't go up to 10. If it had gone up to 11, this would have ranked much higher on my rankings. No, I hated this song from day one. I've not been a big fan of it ever since. However, let me just say that the moment they played this live in concert for the first time, I was actually very giddy. So go figure. Typical Kiss fan. I hate it. Oh, they're playing it live. Awesome. It was just, it tries too hard. And again, we come back to the production takes off a lot of what does make a good song. When you listen to the demo, which is now leaked and can be found on YouTube, you hear everything that they talked about in their own criticism of the song and its transformation from demo to fully produced version. And that often happens to bands, that they had an energy on the original recording that made it an anthem. Or perhaps I just hate it because it was popular in England. I think that's probably more accurate.
I don't like this thing because it's popular. I like the underground edgy stuff.
From Now That's What I Call Music 10.
No, England treated Kiss like shit, and then they like Crazy Nights? Come on, that's absolutely whack.
I get it. When I'm the type of person who appreciates a logic consistency in arguments, so I can imagine like being a Kiss defender for a long time and being like, they're a great band, and then like the album that finally wins them over is like, oh, like the keyboard album? Ah, fuck you, man. Check out Rock and Roll Over. Like, yeah, this is cool too, but like, this is what wins you over? This out of everything they've done? It's like if someone like only became a Kiss fan when they heard The Elder. Like, yes, finally they got it right. So, I get it. I think this is actually much better than the demo, personally. I think I do like the production on this track quite a bit. I think the demo, it's a little bit angrier and a little bit more aggressive. And so I get why that would be more appealing to someone. Like, I get it. But the just sheer optimism in this track and the overflowing with joy is just, it's infectious. This is one of my favorite Kiss songs. This is one of my favorite songs, period. Like, that, it has that Slade-esque chorus. It has just rich vocal production, phenomenal vocals from Paul Stanley, one of the best composed solos in the catalog. And lyrics I 100% get behind. It is about community, going to a rock concert, having fun with friends, with people with who have gone through similar experiences to you, and just uniting through love of music. And even cynical, jaded Steve can't knock that, because that's what he loves about music too. And one of the things he liked about Lipstick joining, once he found out that we weren't just a shitty band with terrible lyrics, was he liked the optimistic message, the believe in yourself, be kind to others, the sense of community. Like, this song lyrically would fit in very well in our catalog and would be a fantastic Lipstick song. And
if only Kiss hadn't written it first.
Right, if Kiss hadn't written it first. I'm saying in the hypothetical situation. I'm not good enough to sing this song because this is a difficult song to sing, and Paul Stanley nails it. And the video is perfect because it is Kiss performing on stage and just, nailing it. It is just it captures the energy of a live show so well and is so fun. And I don't care that it's very similarly titled to A Great Loudness song. I love that song too, but this is S rank. This is perfection. One of the best Kiss tracks, period. Chris L., if you listen to this episode, you're wrong about this song. It's phenomenal. It's great.
Now, here's the great irony of this song, is this is definitely the best song on this album, not the best song on Now That's What I Call Music 10. Which definitely has to go to Fairy Tale of New York by the Pogues.
Oh, so isn't Here I Go Again on there?
Yeah, Whitesnake's Here I Go Again.
Yes.
Is that the only version of Here I Go Again?
Yes. Well, I mean, there's two different Whitesnake versions. One is when they use the word hobo instead of drifter, so that one's kind of fun. It's much more bluesy.
I didn't realize that was a Whitesnake song.
Yeah, it's a Whitesnake song.
But I don't know that that's necessarily better than Crazy Crazy Nights. If there was anything else that would be a contender, it would probably be Billy Idol's Moni Moni. Or maybe La Bamba.
But, so, back to, so judging it on this album, and in terms of, like, Kiss songs you've heard, period, Steve, where does this stack up?
This is definitely one of their stronger songs. Like, in terms of, like, a Kiss song that I think works as a Kiss song and not, them accidentally inventing doom metal, like, this is definitely one of the top ones. Like, unironically, I think this is a good song, catchy melody, good use of Paul actually singing to the best of his ability, but also singing good, catchy notes. Yeah, and good use of gang choruses.
Yeah, like, basically, this is a home run.
Yeah,
like this is a very, like, you know what, you can see why this would have been a huge single for them.
Right. I put the CD in on the way to church and was like, oh shoot, that's like a really good song. I'm cautiously optimistic about this album overall.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't have anything really bad to say about this. It is so damn good. Crazy Mike, what do you think about this one?
Kicking bottom or what?
Okay, well, yeah. So, I mean, I am Crazy Mike. That was my Kiss message board name for a reason. But, geez, I have so much to say. Where to begin? But going back to, like, when I said I had originally heard the Crazy Nights album and was not really sold on this song. It was big and happy and catchy, and I wasn't really too familiar with music like that and didn't know how to feel about it. Because at that point in my life, my favorite Kiss stuff was stuff like Deuce and, like, Parasite, like 70s riffy rock stuff, and I just wasn't going to be having this big catchy chorusy stuff. What's going on with that? Fortunately, in not that long of a time, my palate grew, and when I had a chance to revisit the album, it was a much different story. It kind of just summarizes everything I love about music. I mean, if you asked me to say a favorite genre, it would be like that style of 80s rock. But my favorite band is Kiss, so it's the best of both worlds in regards to that. I wasn't really ever, like, bullied in school, but I never was one of the cool kids either, so I just kind of didn't even really know where I fit in. I was just kind of one of those guys who existed. And, just stuff like, these are my people, this is my crowd. I felt like, yeah, like I belong somewhere. Like, this is awesome. Another line I love, because when I was a young kid, my dad had this just huge, insane stereo setup with these just giant tower speakers. And his stereo literally did go to 10, but he would normally listen to it at like a 3. And it was really loud. And I was a little kid and I didn't even really care about music yet, but I was just curious to see what would happen if I just turn it up. So I think I put it up to like 4. And it was just like obnoxiously loud, and he kind of yelled at me like, "No, you don't touch that. We don't put it up that loud. It's insane." So then to like hear this lyric about if life is a radio, turn it up to 10. I was like, whoa, that must be insane. Because if like 3 was already very loud and 4 was forbidden, what must 10 be like? So that was cool in a cheesy way to me just because of my childhood experience. But yeah, love the guitar solo. Like you said, one of the best solos in the catalog. Love the chorus, love the attitude, love the key change. Perfection. Music for me, musical perfection. Like, not even to be cliche or sarcastic or excessive or anything. But if I were to die right now and someone could be like, define that Mike Walsh guy by a song that he really loved. I mean, you could play Crazy Crazy Nights, and that was my musical love in like a 3 to 4 minute song.
Yeah, it is interesting to like get this sincere on a Kiss episode of this podcast, because a lot of the times, we'll poke fun at the band and criticize certain things or whatever, but there's just sincere, unironic appreciation of this track on every level. It's just,
I mean, we definitely did poke fun at the band on in this episode as well.
Right. But I'm saying on this track in particular, where it's just like, Steve, even you're like having trouble with snarky jokes on this track. They did a good job.
No, yeah, like it surprised me with its goodness.
There you go. That was a nice backhanded compliment.
Kiss, surprisingly good sometimes.
So, sorry that derailed me. Let's go through the ranking as we get to the number 1 song. So from the bottom to the top: Thief in the Night, Bang Bang You, Good Girl Gone Bad, When Your Walls Come Down, I'll Fight Hell to Hold You, No No No, A Reason to Live, Hell or High Water, My Way, Crazy Crazy Nights. But the best song on Crazy Nights, according to this panel, Turn on the Night. So in case you didn't hear that over the drop, it is Turn on the Night. A song that, man, as we're talking about pure joy in musical form, man, this song is another successful one. I'm reminded of the Pot of Thunder episode where Chris Jericho was just so pumped to listen to this song. And yeah, this is musical joy. This is Lightning in a Bottle, one of the first songs that, Diane Warren wrote that was on a major release. Great pop songwriter, so Paul Stanley helping bring her to the forefront of the world. So, it's nice, as other people have commented on, Kiss, being misogynistic and criticizing the band. I'm going to give Paul Stanley credit for working with female co-writers and helping bring them to the pop music forefront and helping bring out, really talented people.
Who does he think he is?
Yeah,
Prince
Holly
or
Knight
something?
too.
This is pop perfection. It's lyrically, Crazy Nights resonates with me more. And Crazy Nights was the first song on the album I fell in love with. And it was very close for me to decide which of these two I liked better. But there are certain times where the anthemic nature of Crazy Crazy Nights isn't the mood I'm in. It's like there are a couple occasions where I'm just not in the mood for it. I think it's a great song and I love it. But there is never a time where I listen to Turn on the Night and I'm ever sick of it. I am never sick of this song. This is just a perfectly crafted pop single. Great vocals from Paul. Just phenomenal hooks. Just hooks up the wazoo. It's just so damn catchy. This is a perfect pop song. I have no critiques of this song in terms of pop structure. It's just so damn catchy and fun.
Quick, put another quarter in Greg.
It's just funny, Greg, hearing you say so damn catchy, it just sounds like you on the Conan song.
Hooks up the wazoo sounds like a weird kink.
I'm sure
That's
Gene's
a
into
song.
it.
Just write
Yet
that song.
another
Hooks
joke
up the
about
What was the
death,
kink last week? Getting your dick
perplexing
stepped on?
some,
Was
and
like
just
a-
plain scaring most.
I think I was getting. I think it was like getting your hand stomped on versus getting a blowjob, which was more appealing. And
It was something I said. Like it was Steve calling me out on something I said, but I don't remember. Was it? I don't remember what it was. One of the songs I liked more than another or something.
I think that was me calling you out on that. That's
Oh, okay.
I don't tend to have that strong of opinions about Kiss songs
Okay.
to
Yeah.
bring
I
up
just remember one
stomping
of
on
you guys
people's hands.
accusing me of this very quirky fetish.
Oh yes,
and,
now I
totally
remember. You
almost-
said you liked "Secretly Cruel" better than most Thin Lizzy songs, and
Okay, I
said
remember
that was,
saying that.
That was
Yeah.
akin to preferring getting your hand stomped on to getting a blowjob.
Which is not
Well,
the
that
sort of
and-
metaphor I would come up with.
That hooks up the wazoo. I'm into some kinky shit. What can I say?
So for this song was in everybody's top 2 across the board on the panel. This was universally liked.
Awesome.
Yeah. Steve, you're usually the harshest critic of Kiss on these episodes, so why don't you go first?
So this was another one that I rushed through my rankings of this one a little bit, but this song, I heard it and was like, this is pretty impressive. Especially like the first pre-chorus when he starts doing those interesting rhythmic things. It's, songwriting is always about that balance between things that are familiar and comfortable and things that are surprising and interesting. And I thought that was a good swing back and forth between straight ahead, like straight rhythm into that syncopated rhythm, then back into the straight rhythm was a good swing of known and comfortable to interesting and unexpected, then back to known and comfortable. I thought that worked very well. They aren't abusing the letter G in this song like they so often do. It's just, this and Crazy Crazy Nights. I was talking about peak Kiss before. This is not this is them operating at their highest capacity, not their highest, cruising capacity like some of the other songs were.
I'm afraid I don't quite understand that last sentence. Could you elaborate?
Well, there are a couple standout songs where they'll have a few songs that are like really, really good, and then they'll have a lot of songs that are like, yeah, this is what Kiss is generally supposed to be doing. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but it's, when they're working well, they can churn out a bunch of that stuff, and then they'll have a couple of these really good ones.
So there's a couple. So this is like the kind of thing where if you heard this on shuffle, it's not like necessarily a skip.
Yeah.
Which is high praise from Steve.
Right.
He's
Don't
very
throw this song into the dumpster. It's fine. The highest of Kiss praises.
Steve, your comment about the letter G, I that went over my head. I don't get it.
I was making fun of them a lot in their early albums because I think the first 3 albums all had at least one song that had a gerund in the title that they dropped the final G from. So,
okay.
something.
like nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha.
Coming
I didn't know what you're
home.
talking about, like the key of G. I wasn't sure what you're talking about with G. Okay.
No, yeah. Like they called the song "Turn on the Night," not "Turn on the Knit." Crazy knits.
So yeah, Mike, why don't you go talk about "Turn on the Night" a little bit?
Yeah, awesome song, fantastic. Kind of like I was really agreeing with what you said about, you're talking about how you love Crazy Crazy Nights, but then how you're always in the mood for Turn on the Night. And I could relate to that about Turn on the Night just because I can remember being a teenager or something and going out for the night, and I'll just embarrass myself now and say, you put on your best shirt and your cologne or whatever, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to meet a cool girl, and like, yeah, I'm such a cool dude, and like, I'm going to, have an awesome night. And you kind of go through that in your teenage years, and you're like, tonight's the night. And Turn on the Night is so one of those pump-up songs. But as, your life progresses, you're in your 20s, I'm in my 30s now, and then you just kind of like, about a lot of things of life. You've become a lot more jaded and cynical and tired, and you just want to go to sleep after work on a Friday and things like that.
You play the song to pump yourself up for a night of Netflix.
I mean, exactly.
Turn on Netflix.
So, like, sometimes it's hard to recapture that just, like, youthful, energetic feeling. And amazingly, for me, Turn on the Night is one of those exceptions where I can hear it and connect again. I'm like, what it was like to be young. And I can still I might just be out driving and on my way to a friend's house, and in no way expecting to meet a chick, but at the same time, just playing that song, and I'll just still feel good. I'll be like, ah, yes, life is a beautiful thing. And it's just totally one of those songs. Steve, I love what you said about the pre-chorus. I've never really consciously thought about it that way, but you're so right. That's exactly what it is, and it's totally effective for the song. Greg, I love what you said about Diane Warren. I didn't realize this was one of her first appearances on like a major label album or whatever. So that's really interesting. It's also especially interesting to me because Diane Warren, Desmond Child, some of the the biggest songwriters. If I'm not mistaken, Desmond Child on Dynasty was kind of like his big appearance, on the music scene as well. So like Kiss just bringing out all these huge major songwriters who did like way more amazing things for other bands, and for some reason Kiss did not have those massive hits with them compared to other bands.
Well, I mean, Kiss did have "I Was Made for Loving You," which was a massive hit.
Oh
for them.
no, I'm not saying they didn't have any success, but I'm just saying like, look at Desmond Child and Aerosmith, and there's different reasons for
Desmond
that.
Child and Bon Jovi.
Yeah, exactly. Yes,
Desmond
exactly.
Child and Ricky Martin. Like,
now you're just making me sad, Greg.
Look, "Live and La Vida Loca" is a great song, but I mean the fact that
it is, yeah. I just meant sad that Kiss is not bigger than all of those bands in my fantasy 1988 England. Yeah, no, absolutely. So, but yeah, "Turn on the Night" is just stellar. It was funny too, because it's too bad about Gavin not being here, because it had those guitar squeals that he was kind of ripping on last week, where he's like, "Ugh, I don't like those." And I was listening to the album again in preparation for today, and I was like, "Ooh, Gavin's not going to be happy."
No, the squeals are used judiciously and perfectly on this track.
Absolutely.
It's exactly where they need to be. And I want to just as we're talking about Diane Warren and Desmond Child, like if Kiss did nothing else in their career but bring those two to the forefront, that would already be one of the greatest contributions to pop music in history.
That was kind of my point. Like, people need to know that Kiss did that.
Right, and they don't get credit for bringing like those two to the forefront. And
without Kiss, we wouldn't have Milli Vanilli.
Look, those Milli Vanilli songs are catchy and well done by the studio musicians.
I mean, yeah, "Blame It on the Rain" is actually a good song.
Right, so like don't blame it on the songwriter. Blame it on the rain, Steve.
I mean, blame it on the producer who was like, let's just have these dudes lip sync.
But once again, just credit to those amazing songwriters. Credit to Paul Stanley for recognizing their talent and recommending them to people. When Bon Jovi wanted to write with Paul Stanley, he recommended Desmond Child, and he would recommend Diane Warren to people. And I think pop music is in a much better place because those two great songwriters wrote so many great things for all of us to enjoy. So
all because two Jews from New York had a vision. Thank you, Kiss.
Thank you, Kiss. Julian, you've been kind of quiet about this one. Let me hear you talk about "Turn on the Night" and why it's fantastic.
Yeah, I was just listening to it instead while you guys were talking.
Just like
I could listen to these jerks talk, or I could listen to this song I like.
Mute these chumps.
I think when we talked about Unmasked, one of the things with that album was "Tomorrow" is one of the great underappreciated songs of this style. And It's the same for "Turn on the Night." It is just absolute pop rock perfection. I've loved it since day one. It's always been one of those feel-good songs. You put it on. I think Mike was saying that you're going out, you're putting on your cologne, and it just takes you back. I mean, it's a great song to get into the mood for going out to a sports event or a concert or to hang with friends or just going out. I mean, I can't say anything bad about it. It's awesome. I love it. If you're feeling down in the dumps, you don't need any cold gin. Just put on this song.
Yeah, I mean, this song, this is the kind of song where I can be having a rough day at work. I can be tired because I stayed out too late the night before. I'm like, I just want to go home and chill. And then "Turn on the Night" shows up on my playlist. And I'm like, nope, I need to party after work.
It's time to party.
It is time to party. And you know what? I'm going to give credit to hair metal as the genre that makes you want to party. This is a hair metal song that makes you want to party, and it succeeds even for people who are getting tired and old. You listen to this, you're like, shit, I have to party right now. And that is like some Andrew WK level power of party. That's phenomenal. So, yeah, it's a perfectly crafted pop song, and just so you had two great songwriters firing on all cylinders. You have the band performing well, and I don't know if any of us touched on it, but Paul Stanley's vocal is just perfection on this track. This is peak Paul Stanley using his super powered voice that, at his peak, and using it like the exact right way. No flaws in this track.
Yeah, and it's also one where it's got quite a bit of keyboards present. So of all the songs on the album, it actually is probably one of the heavier keyboard songs, but it's still perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of a single thing I would change about this song. Like, it's just, there you go. Perfect pop song. The end. It's hard to nitpick it or tear it apart.
9-minute extended version.
Yeah.
Ooh. Well, yes, that but then again, I think about it, I've listened to the song 3 times in a row before, so that is the 9-minute extended version. Just listen to it on repeat.
Well, Greg, now you kind of have me wanting to hear like an Andrew WK cover of this.
I mean, Andrew WK has gone on record as saying one of his main musical inspirations was the Kiss Crazy Nights album.
I did not know that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. He's writing catchy, optimistic keyboard rock about partying with like gigantic synth keyboards. Did you think that was a coincidence?
I mean, I guess I live in this world where like most people hate Crazy Nights.
But it's Andrew WK. Think about what an awesome guy he is.
Yeah, it's time to party.
Yeah, well, that's our episode. Were you guys happy with the ranking? Anyone surprised by it?
Oh, yeah, one thing I did want to say, I was very happy but very surprised at how high My Way ranked. I ranked it very high because I love it, but I thought that one was going to be, overall have a way lower ranking. So,
well, Steve and I both love Rocky IV, so,
Yeah, I was surprised. That one is definitely... by Kiss purists, definitely gets a lot of grief.
Hi, Julian.
No offense to Julian.
No, I'm just messing with it.
Yeah, how weird is it that this is that in this episode Julian was the heel?
Right?
Sorry, I'm listening to Turn on the Night again. Can you guys keep it down?
Yeah, that is so weird. Like, Steve is the good guy in this episode, and Julian's kind of the villain.
Actually, on the Steve note, I want to kind of, and Rocky IV, I want to give Steve my Rocky IV moment. When I first started doing these podcasts with Steve, I didn't like him much, and he didn't like me either. But after doing these podcasts, he started changing the way he felt about me, and I started changing about the way I felt about him. So what I'm trying to say is, if I can change, and Steve can change, everybody can change. I'm sorry, I just had to. But in all seriousness, I was kind of always wondering, even before I got involved with this, just Greg seeing the posts you share on Facebook and stuff, I was always kind of like, why do you guys have this guy who like kind of shits on Kiss, like and listens to the albums like 5 hours before the podcast one time, reviewing Kiss? I was like, what the hell? And then Asylum, I was mixed at times. I was like, yeah, exactly, what the hell? And then other times I'm like, well, no, I get it. And then definitely this time around, it's cool because it's like you're getting someone's fresh take who literally just listened to the album one time, like within the last 12 hours or 24 hours tops or something.
Usually it's like 2 days prior.
That is different than someone who has had 20 years to like worship the album. So it is a great contrast. And Steve and I disagree on many things. We agree on some surprising ones as well. So I will admit that I was the douchebag who was like, Steve isn't a Kiss fan. He doesn't belong here. And I was very wrong. I was Steve, I tipped my vomit hat to you.
Steve is my bassist, and he has the recording computer, so he's on every episode.
Right, exactly. If you want to like form the cue to say Steve is a douchebag who isn't a Kiss fan and shouldn't be on these episodes, get in line behind me first, buddy.
But that is part of the fun is taking someone who's not super familiar with a band's catalog and going through the entire thing in order. I've gone through the Pumpkins episodes, and there are so many people who are really upset with me about that Gish episode. Where I'm like, yeah, this band has...
So close.
There's a chair across two chairs, and he powerbombed him through the chair.
You want to drop the obligatory Thin Lizzy reference while you're at... Oh, no, that already happened,
Yeah, that
didn't
already
it?
happened.
Okay.
White Album.
White Album.
Yeah,
All right, let's... Moving on.
Moving on, but... There were a number of people who were really upset with me about the Gish episode, who I still get people messaging me about that sometimes, like, man, your thoughts on Gish are bullshit. You know, not even a real Pumpkins fan. Like, yeah, that was the point. That was the point, is to take someone unfamiliar with the music, check it out, and see if it moves them. And, you know, to hear Steve, you know, to give praise to the songs that work for him just speaks to the quality of the material, where you can take someone who's not a huge Kiss fan and be like, yeah, Crazy Crazy Nights, you know, great song. Turn on the Night, great song. And so that's impressive and part of the fun of the show. And part of the fun is like having someone, their appreciation gradually increase, where Steve could probably put together like a 20-song Kiss playlist that he'd be pretty into.
Yeah.
And
it'd
with
be
the
really cool too, because it wouldn't be what like a normal, you know, air quotes, normal Kiss fan 20-song playlist would be like. But that'd be awesome.
We might have to do an episode where Steve, like after we go through the catalog, Steve picks his 20 favorites and the rest of us have to rank them. that might be fun, and maybe we'll do that with me and the Pumpkins.
It'll be all the troll songs that the true fans hate.
Like, yeah, My Way, fantastic, right up towards the top. But that's part of the fun of doing the podcast and sharing music with friends, talking about music with friends, seeing what we like, what we don't like. You know, that's part of the joy of life, and, you know, it makes things fun and interesting. And, you know, I get to repay him back on Gojira episodes, so it all works out. But yeah, I was surprised with how high My Way ranked, but otherwise, I definitely predicted the top two would be the top two, and I predicted it would be a bit more of a back and forth between Gene and Paul on this album, because I think Gene... He had a stronger album.
Yeah, Gene did better than he normally does on some of the songs.
Overall. And even if lyrically he might not have succeeded on all the songs, I think musically he did. I think that's pretty fair. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy with the ranking. Julian, other than My Way ranking super high, how do you feel about this ranking?
I don't have a problem with the ranking because, again, it's... You know, everyone's got their own tastes. Everyone's got songs that resonate with them in different ways or remind them of different things. So, you know, it's all good, no matter how insane I think some of the picks were for you guys. But, you know, as I get to know you better, I kind of understand the madness that lurks within your mind. For myself, I mean, I've bashed on quite a few of the songs, yet I respect what Kiss were trying to do at the time, what Paul Stanley was trying to create to compete with the bands that had overtaken Kiss at the time. And I respect and enjoy it enough to have done an interview series on, you know. So that kind of sums it up to me. I have a great deal of respect to what Ron Nevison brought to the table with the songs. And while not all of them work for me and not all of them have aged well, there are still a few songs that I highly praise and thoroughly enjoy to this day.
And Steve, so how about you? I think this one, like, was this you ranked this towards the top of your Kiss albums, you said, so this was a pretty pleasant surprise for you overall then.
I'm not used to, like, ranking things the same as everybody else on the panel, and that's a little
especially on a Kiss episode?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a surreal experience for me.
I mean, dude, you're becoming a Kiss fan. You're like...
No!
Don't you mean no?
Fudge off, you fuck.
But yeah, I mean, I think this is a great album, and I'm happy with the ranking. And yeah, had a fun time talking about it. But I'm gonna, you know, slight spoilers for next Kiss album we're doing. That is my second favorite non-makeup album, is the one we're doing next week. So I like that one even more than this one. So let's see if it lives up to the hype that I'm giving to Steve.
Let's see if it lives up to the hype that I'm creating right now.
Right. So excellent guess. Where can we find you on the internet? What do you want to plug? Julian?
Well, since we're specifically talking about Kiss's Crazy Nights, when I'm not on the Kiss FAQ, go over to kissdangerzone.com and you can read all the interviews and background information on this album. And make sure you're playing the album while you're reading this stuff, because it'll either take you back or turn you away.
And Mike, what do you feel like promoting this week?
Great question. Unlike getting caught off guard last week, I did think of something very kind of out of the box. I don't have my own website or anything to promote, but I am a huge music enthusiast. And even though rock music is my absolute favorite, I am here to suggest or mention something a little different. Ronnie Millsap is a country 70s and 80s legend, and he is actually one of my favorite singers of all time, rock or otherwise. And he does have a new album out called The Duets. And it's basically him, singing with some old country legends as well as some current stars or up and coming stars. And even though for the most part so far, I'm kind of not thinking these songs take the original versions of his, as he is, pushing 80, his voice isn't what it used to be. But it's still very interesting to hear some of the things they did on it. So if anyone likes country music or is just intrigued to check something different out, check that out. Ronnie Millsap, The Duets.
And Steve, where can people find us on the internet?
You can find us at lipstickgeneration.com and on most social media platforms by searching for Lipstick Generation, because we got beaten to the punch by makeup companies.
I was not seeing the Motley Crue bomb drop there. That's tremendous. That's our episode. Bye.
Bye.